Welcome to GameFace, episode 191 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. You have found the most informative gaming podcast in the world. We have another gigantic show today. We have two massive games that we're going to tackle. You guys can probably guess what those are. We're going to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. We're going to talk about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Both of us have played a huge amount of both of those. Some housekeeping stuff before we get started today. First of all, I want to thank all the people who subscribe via Twitch Prime. Right before the show started, there is a ton of them. Let's see. Elvis, One Cat, Danboy90, Axel F1986, Tomb Raiders, Dawn Lionheart. Who else? That's all our Twitch Prime subs for the beginning of the show today. If you guys are just tuning in now, and you're going to be able to make it till the end of the show, we'd appreciate if you guys could hold on until the end of the show to subscribe via Twitch Prime so we can thank you personally for doing that. Black Friday, next Friday, we are doing a Black Friday flash sale on our latest T-shirts. One of the T-shirts that Matt is wearing right now. The shirts are going to be $15 all through Black Friday weekend. So beginning next Friday, all through the weekend, you'll be able to buy our shirts for $15. I think we did a sale not that long ago for that same price. They've been back up at $25 ever since. They're going back down to $15. Another thing, we have another giveaway today on the show. Third week in a row that we're giving something away to our live viewers. This week we have a free three-month subscription to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And we'll be giving that away at the end of the show during the Q&A, so you have to stick around till the end if you want to win that. We'll be doing a quick fun quiz to hand out the awards. What else we got? I think that's it. Pactor Factor went up yesterday. Sorry for the delay for a little while on that. Finally shot those and got the first episode up. That should be all good. And we only have, about 4 episodes of GameFace left for the year. Maybe 5, depending on when I leave to go home for the holidays. But we're getting down to it here, folks. And one of those will be our Game of the Year show. So we only have a couple more regular episodes of GameFace until the end of 2019.
Yeah, it looks like it's 4.
Yeah. So count it down here, folks. 2019 is almost in the books. And with that, let's get on with the show. We have a big show, and we need to get to it. Otherwise, we're never going to get through it before we hit our 3-hour limit. We're going to kick things off with Pokemon Sword and Shield. Probably, I guess you could say, the first real console Pokemon game. Unless you want to count Let's Go.
But then you'd be wrong, so.
Well, I mean, there was like Veil of Darkness or whatever it was on GameCube.
Yeah, this is the first mainline series entry to premiere and be on a console.
Yeah, which is a pretty big freaking deal. Not that Game Freak has a choice.
No, I mean, there was no handheld left, really.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I could
you could have put it on 3DS.
I could honestly see them doing that, even post-haste maybe. Because you'd still sell like another 5 or 6 million copies probably on 3DS.
Yeah, but I don't think this would run on a 3DS probably.
No, it wouldn't. They'd have to completely hack it and figure out a way to make it work. But it's probably worth the money they would make with that installed base of the 3DS out there.
Yeah, I don't know. The software on the Switch sells just fine.
It does, absolutely. And I can't even imagine how well this is going to sell. Even before the end of the year, my guess is probably somewhere around 10 million units before 2019 is even up. And it's just going to keep climbing from there. The question is, does it deserve it?
Well, I mean, it's Pokemon. Doesn't really matter if it deserves it.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe the bigger question is...
You can't stop the Pokemon chain.
I mean, you can't. You're right. I absolutely get that. But maybe the bigger question is, does this franchise still deserve to sell that many copies at this point?
I don't know if deserve has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
It's I don't think Death Stranding deserves to sell 1 million copies, but it's gonna.
Yeah,
so
and then some, yeah.
It's just, if people want it, then people want it. That's the nature of it, and they sure want this.
That's for sure. I don't think it'll topple Call of Duty, but my guess is it'll be the second best-selling game of Q4.
I don't know if I'd take that bet.
Really? What game do you think might outsell it besides Call of Duty?
Oh, nothing.
You think Call of Duty will out?
I think it will outsell Call of Duty.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a bold claim.
Between the two versions, yeah.
That's a bold claim, even with the Switch's installed base.
Yeah, well, the Switch sells a ridiculous amount of attach rate.
It does.
So I'm not. I'm not. I mean, if Smash Brothers can sell 15 million, this thing can sell 15 million easy.
Yeah, and I mean that would make it tight with Call of Duty because by all accounts, it sounds like Modern Warfare is selling very, very well, even by Call of Duty standards.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. What would you say your overarching opinion is of the game, having spent a big chunk of time with it?
It's good. It's not great.
Yeah,
it's Pokemon. Like it's what Pokemon needs to be to become a console franchise. They play it pretty safe in a lot of ways. They streamlined some of it. You've lost the end moves or whatever. Like, can't remember what some of the stuff they cut out of it. Obviously,
Z moves, right?
The Z moves. That's right. Z is an N sideways. That's why it was. They removed obviously a bunch of the Pokedex. Like, it's not a full national Pokedex. I don't really care. I
don't care either.
I have not caught them all since I was in my 20s, so it's
I haven't
not
either.
really an issue.
But you know what? Even beyond that, like I just obviously we just played Let's Go, which had the original 151 in it. Now because I just played that, I'm okay with this having different Pokemon in it. I just had like 50 hours, maybe not that long, but I had dozens of hours with the original 151 just a handful of months ago. It's refreshing to get to see some of the new Pokemon to me because I honestly haven't really dug that deep into a Pokedex for a long time. Like every Pokemon game I play, other than Red and Blue where I collected them all, since then, it's like every Pokemon game I play, I just kind of collect whatever shows up in front of me as I go through the quest. I never go back and try to track down more of them. I never really trade with anybody. Usually my Pokedex, by the time I finish a Pokemon game, is usually around like 80, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up to like 60-something already, and I'm only on the second gym. I do catch especially now that like you can see them in the grass.
Well, first of all, the game gives you, as soon as it starts, you can basically collect about 20 Pokemon in the first like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it sets you out in a field where they're just everywhere. And
and also of every type. Like that's the thing is you're never going to walk into an elemental gym without a tool to beat the things in that gym. Like, it's not like some of the old games where it's like if you pick a certain starter, you are at a tremendous disadvantage for the first couple gyms.
Yeah.
This game gives you all the tools you need to build a very effective team from like 10 minutes in.
I've seen a lot of people arguing on social media about which version they should buy. And in all honesty, like I don't think it matters because they give you everything you need in the first like 45 minutes to build whatever kind of team that you want.
Well, I mean, that's always true. The decision between versions is, as always, which legendary do you like best? Yeah. Check which Pokemon are and are not in each version, if there's one particular that you want. I mean, I looked at the different versions and I didn't care about the exclusive Pokemon in each one.
I'm playing Sword.
And then I'm playing Shield. So one of my friends, I was like, okay, whatever you pick, I will play the other thing so we can trade Pokemon if you want to get, because she does want to get them all. So I'm like, oh, we'll just do that. And so she went Sword because she wanted the wolf with the sword in its mouth. And I'm like, all right, I don't care. So I got that one. So I picked that one, and so I've been playing Shield. And so the other difference is there's 2 exclusive gyms in each one. I think the exclusive gyms in Shield are cooler. Okay. There's a psychic gym with a weird ghost person.
I hate fighting psychic Pokemon, so I'm glad I am not in that one.
Yeah. So that's fun. Like,
but you don't. I mean, I've never had a Pokemon game where I got so many Pokemon so easily right at the beginning of the game. Because the other thing, too, is at least to me, it seems way easier to catch Pokemon with a Pokeball. Like I had some where I barely had them below half health and captured them with a regular Pokeball.
Yeah, well, I've had plenty where I've captured them just because a couple I've run into and I realized that like if I hit this thing, it's so low level, it's gonna die.
Right.
So I just threw a Pokeball and it was at full health and I got it.
Yeah.
Like it happens.
Yeah, I have 5 gym badges. I haven't finished the game. But only recently has it got to the point where I had to start using like a Great Ball on a Pokemon every once in a while.
I've only had to use
very easy.
I had to use a Great Ball to catch an Eevee. Because one Eevee would not stay in a goddamn ball. And I wanted an Eevee because you want to evolve them into the various things. Yeah. And so I was just like, all right, fine. I'll use a Great Ball on you. But that's the only one I've needed, and I'm like level 27, 29,
catching
30.
Pokemon in this is very... I mean, in all honesty, the whole game is really easy. I mean,
I mean, the base story game of all Pokemon games is pretty easy once you get past, like, Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't, like, balanced it any different than other Pokemon games. Like, your main Pokemon is so overpowered. Yeah. Like, it doesn't even... Like, you go into the gym battles... it doesn't even matter what type of Pokemon.
Well, I love the dissonance between like the what you're doing in the stuff and the core, because like they basically turned Pokemon battles into Quidditch in this. Like you do them in giant stadiums, and it's like all done like a big like pro sport, and everybody's got
these
fans
weird cuts,
and all these
like
things.
these camera angles that they cut to,
and dramatic. And like there's this whole thing where it's just like like I fought the first gym is like all grass Pokemon, and so I just threw Ember like over and over.
I started with
one
the fire Pokemon.
And one shot at everybody, and they're like the announcer's just like, amazing, we've never seen Pokemon. I did the same move 4 times, and I beat the guy who's apparently one of the 8 best players in the. I mean, why does he only have 3 Pokemon?
Which starter did you pick?
The bunny.
So did I.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm surprised we both picked the same one. But yeah, that first gym is a joke because it's a fire Pokemon and it's
they all
grass.
are. I mean, because like I have a Pokemon of every element by the time I got to that gym. I mean, whatever you threw at me, I was going to have something. And because they all get experience, now you don't even have to have an item or turn on the option to give them all experience when you're fighting. Like everybody was top. I mean, by the time I got to the first gym, and granted I was running around catching a lot of stuff and fighting a lot of stuff. But like by the time I got to that first gym and the wild area like took a lot of my time because like there's a lot of stuff to do here, and then I finally woke up, I was like I should probably progress. But by the time I got to that first gym, I mean my Magikarp was a Gyarados. Like it was like I had a bunch of like monsters on my team basically.
The other thing you can do that again makes it easier is you can dip into your Pokemon box whenever you want.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to go to like a Pokemon Center or any location. Like at any time you can change your party and put whatever Pokemon you want in whatever order you want.
Yeah, which is basically necessary because of the way the wild thing works, and like you've got the ones wandering around and stuff. Like you basically need that to make those open kind of wild areas work.
Let's talk about the wild areas, because that to me is probably the biggest change. I mean, it turns...
That's really the big draw of this game in terms of the new features.
It turns Pokemon into like a mini MMO where you raid with other players. And while you're out in that field, there's also Pokemon in the grass that are around the level that you are. But then there are also these hyper powerful Pokemon walking around that you can also try to tackle. I did a few times. I think I ended up capturing 1 out of the 3 before it just wiped out my party or whatever.
I did a few times. I mean, it doesn't explain some things a little bit. Like, partly because it assumes that probably. And like I found a giant onyx. I love onyx, the big rock snake thing.
Yeah, I found it too. It's like we come into that one area, it's right there. Yeah.
And the bunny has martial arts, which it's weak to, so I just whacked it a bunch of times
kick
and managed to survive long enough to get it down to red. And then I couldn't capture it because eventually I figured out, it's too high level. It's like it won't let its guard down.
It should tell you before you start, like, you cannot capture this Pokemon. Yeah, I've had that problem.
After I remembered that is a thing in these games. After that, like I'm like, oh right, that's how that works.
Yeah, each gym badge lets you control Pokemon up to a certain level.
To capture a certain level. It's not even control anymore because they don't seem to do that anymore. Where like
once you capture them, you can use them now.
Yeah, because like you could capture them and like sometimes they disobey you. Like that's
still
trick.
A thing.
Does it still do that?
Yeah, like there's a one ball that when you capture a Pokemon with, it's automatically friendly after you capture it, so you don't have to go through that process of it being a jerk.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't remember ever not being able to capture something.
Before.
I don't know because when you get the badge now, it says like now you can capture Pokemon up to level 25, and I'm like, my starter Pokemon is level 31, so I don't know what you're.
Yeah, well, you try to throw the ball, and
it says it won't let you.
Yeah, the crazy thing is the screen comes up so fast you can't even read it, like telling you why you can't capture it. So I wasted like 4 balls the first time. I'm like, what's going on? Like, is it glitching? Well, and then my eye caught it quick enough to see you can't capture it. You can't capture it.
Well, the Onyx said it like. It just said it won't let its guard down, and like it wouldn't let me throw a ball at all.
Yeah.
So that was I mean, there's a couple things that I felt like it could explain better. Like the Dynamax stuff is kind of explained, but you just kind of learn by doing. But like
But you hardly get to use the Dynamax.
It's only in the raid battles and the gym battles really so far. And then I like the effect of it. I mean,
it's amazing.
I like giant monster stuff. And then like when you do the group battles. Like the raid battles, like I've never had one with other players.
No, it cannot
doesn't
match you up
properly. But it'll fill your party with NPCs. Basically.
I think it's broken. Like I just think the matchmaking.
It's either broken or nobody's doing it at the low levels I'm at.
It could be.
So like,
I couldn't match up. I tried over and over and over, and it would finally time out. And then, like you said, it'll say, "Do you want us to play people for you?" And you're like, "Yes." And then all of a sudden, it appears that you're playing with other humans, when in fact. You're not, you're saying.
Yeah. Because there's no way to customize your character to look like the characters that show up like that.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's obviously bots, basically.
It's like Fortnite when you play your first game of Fortnite.
And but it doesn't explain any of that. Like for a while, I would just sit there on the matchmaking screen for like 2 straight minutes. It would time out, and I get nobody. Even though I saw there's other players standing around looking for other players, it's very weird. So it doesn't, and like you have to kind of go into like the menus, and there's a way to join other games, but you have to dig through it in the Y menu. It's very poorly explained, very poorly implemented, and extremely confusing to navigate. But once you figure it out, you figure it out. But it doesn't help you at all to figure it out. It's very weird.
Well, the other thing too is like maybe I'm not far enough yet, but they're easy as crap. Like I've never had a Pokemon faint in a raid ever. Mm-hmm. And usually with like 2 attacks, I've wiped out the other Pokemon and captured it.
I mean, I'm guessing that's because we're way early, and if you're doing like post-game raids, it's going to be way harder.
It should be.
So
yeah. We'll see. But so far,
this is just like a taste of this new element, I think.
So far they're a joke. But the thing is, the rewards you get for those raids are insane. First of all, you capture the Pokemon, which is usually like way higher power, or usually about the same power as your starter Pokemon at that point. And then you just get gobs and gobs of items. And there's all these little systems in the game, some more successful than others, I would say. Setting up camp is a thing in this game, and you can come across other people's camps that they've set up in the game, and you can basically the camps is just an open field, and you have like toys and a ball to play with the Pokemon.
It's like the there's like a similar thing in the what's that game with the Pokemon?
You're seeing the raids right now.
What's the thing with the Pokemons? They're all cubes. You know, it was like a free download on the Switch.
Oh,
you know that. I can't remember what the name of that was.
Yeah, I don't remember it
but there was something similar to that.
Pokemon Rush or something like that?
Yeah, it's something similar to that where you could like play with them and stuff and do that. I think so. But yeah, you basically cook with other players, and everybody throws berries into the pot, and then you have to like fan the flames, but not too much, and then you stir the pot, but not too much, and then
so the berries before you could give them to your Pokemon to hold, and they would give them a buff of some kind.
And you still can.
You still can. But now you also use them for cooking, and you have to basically pick all the ingredients, and then, like you said, you throw them in a pot, you heat it up, you got to fan the flames of the fire underneath, then you got to spin the analog stick to stir the pot, and then you end up with some kind of curry. Mm-hmm. Do you think this was a good addition or a needed addition to the game?
Probably not needed, but you don't really need it for anything. Yeah. Frankly.
What do you think about the camps? I just don't understand the purpose of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I haven't felt... I mean, I did it a couple times when they first introduced the idea, and I just haven't felt the need to do it again, because, it's easier to just go back to a Pokemon Center, heal your guys up, and go back out and do what you're doing.
Because there's fast travel in this as well.
Yeah.
So any town you've been to, you can go to the map, you can hover over the town, and you can fast travel there immediately. There's also a bicycle. I don't know if you've got it yet, but you get a bicycle, and that helps. And it's pretty crazy, too, because... in the open world, like the wild area, instead of having the side angle of you riding the bike, it actually goes to like a 3D view behind you. You can ride the bike around those wild areas like it's a 3D game. And that helps you get around a lot more quickly, too. So, yeah, traversal in this game is not really a problem at all. Between the fast travel and the bike, and the game's linear, so you're always kind of held by the hand and is pointing you in the next direction you need to go to. You're never really confused. Your
rivals constantly showing up being obnoxious.
Telling you where to go, follow me.
Well, also just being way too enthusiastic about everything.
And then you whoop his ass again.
You're like, I'm the real... I mean, it's always been like that, but it's just that it's like, I'm the real man. You're going to have to fight against me. I'm like, dude, I just one-shotted all 3 of your guys. Like, what are you doing sending a goddamn sheep after a dragon at this point?
Yeah, fire and wool do not mix very well in general. But again, you're seeing the raids right now. So not only can you Gigamax, but the enemy can Gigamax as well. And their Pokemon becomes gigantic or whatever. And it's like these Godzilla-like almost battles at times. Have you tried any of the other online functionality? Any of the trading or anything like that?
Yeah, I've done some surprise trades. People are actually putting out pretty good stuff there. Like I've gotten like a Ponyta and 2 of the starters I didn't have. Because people seem to be doing is they're getting starters and matching them up in the egg center, so they lay an egg and create a new one, and then they have extra starters they can send out so you can get stuff that is not. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get any other starters.
Oh, that's interesting.
So sending up just random Pokemon. Sometimes you'll just get a starter or like a really good Pokemon somebody decided to send up. There's a lot of very generous people playing the surprise trade.
And then there's a thing called like a mystery box that you can get. It's on, I think it's timed or something. I'm not sure how it works, but it's basically a loot box. You go in and it downloads the mystery gift, and then you open it. And I think I only got one, but the one it had a Pokemon in it. So they added a Pokemon to my Pokedex through that. There is a lot of connectivity in this. I mean, that's probably the biggest shift for this game is how connected it is.
Yeah, I mean, they had stuff like that in the previous ones.
They had like trading and battling.
Yeah, trading and battling and like more specific. They had specific trading, not like, you could put up. The thing that this doesn't have that is most probably going to be missed the most is that you can't do the thing where there was I can't remember the name of it, but basically you'd put up a thing on, like, I guess sort of like an auction house thing, but basically you'd say, like, I'm putting this up for trade and I want this specific Pokemon in exchange for it.
Yeah.
And they don't let you do that anymore. That was a faster way to sort of get the things you're missing. So that's going to be an issue for some people, I think, because you basically have to rely on either surprise trade or link trade, where you just sort of link up with a random person and hopefully they have something you want. But I don't know why they took that out, but maybe they just wanted it to be a little more randomized.
Yeah, here's the mystery box. I got a Meowth.
Yeah, God, the new Meowths are bizarre.
The one with like the beard or whatever.
Beards.
Yeah, it's really
like
crazy.
I thought they were just like really fluffy, but like when I saw pictures of them like before it came out, and then like you see him in the game, it's like, oh no, that's a giant beard. He has a giant Santa beard.
Yeah, and now you're seeing the camp, and basically it's just this open area, and you use toys to play with your Pokemon. You have like this cat toy, and then you have a ball that you can throw, and they'll like run after the ball and bring it back. I'm not sure what it does.
It's supposed to like bond you to the Pokemon, but I don't know what the advantage of that is.
I don't either. I haven't figured that out. And here's cooking, where you grab all the berries that you've collected. Basically, you have to have a base ingredient, and then you season the base ingredient with the berries. And then obviously you come up with a bunch of different concoctions, and then ultimately it ends up being a bowl of curry, which I don't even know what you do with that, to be honest with you.
Well, you eat it, and then either it tastes good or it doesn't, and then if it tastes good, the Pokemon's like, hey, and like if it doesn't, the Pokemon's like, oh, and then like I don't know what the result of that is.
I just put it in my inventory and never even ate it. But to me, the camps doesn't add much to the game. It's just kind of a frivolous addition.
I mean, if there is a necessity to them, I haven't run into it yet.
Yeah.
Like maybe later in the game they're more important. I don't know.
Like eventually I think you can fast travel between them.
Yeah, they're fast. They are like the NPC ones you run into are fast travel points. So
Yeah.
they're handy that way, but in terms of actually set like camping, I don't know what that's for.
What do you think of the visuals in Pokemon Sword and Shield?
I think they're fine.
I think Pokemon Let's Go looks better.
I completely disagree with that.
I think it looks a lot better.
No.
Why do you disagree with that?
Because this looks way better. Like it's like Pokemon Let's Go is a simpler art style, so it's it's more consistent, but there's a lot more detail in this, and there's bigger vistas and like more interesting terrain. Like you still run into stuff where like sometimes you're walking along the ground and the ground texture is just like, oh, that's very PS1. But like I think what they're doing here in terms of like art direction is way more interesting than anything in Let's Go.
I think it looks so generic.
Well, it looks like Pokemon. I think there's a cleaner look to Let's Go because it's a simpler.
I think it looks.
Environment.
Let's Go looks more like Pokemon.
I mean, Let's Go looks more like old Pokemon. This looks more like an evolution of like what you're dealing with in like Sun and Moon or X and Y. I mean, it kind of depends what you like better. I mean,
I've been pretty disappointed in the attack animations as well. Like those goofy animations were fine in a handheld game, but in a console game, they just look low rent.
Yeah, it's still a handheld game, really.
I mean, that's the thing.
It's a halfway kind of.
It is
hybrid almost.
Yeah, just like the platform that it was made for.
Yeah,
but you're paying $60 for this. I've never paid $60 for a Pokemon game, but now I am.
Paid $60 for 2 Pokemon games.
Right. Yeah. And this kind of
now it's $120 for 2 Pokemon.
Right. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the last Zelda game, the remake of the Game Boy game. It's like now they're expecting us to pay full price for what we used to pay far less for. And I think this feels like another one to me. But I don't know. I don't know what I've enjoyed more, to be honest with you. Let's Go or this. I like, obviously, the Pokemon in Let's Go more. I like the capture mechanics in this more. but I think they ultimately end up kind of evening out, and I've just struggled to feel like if somebody asked me which one they would buy, I don't know which one I would recommend. I would ask them. I'd be like, do you really love the original 151? And if they said yes, then I would tell them to get Let's Go.
I mean, I would think, like, do you want more, like, I think Let's Go focuses more on kind of the so-called love of Pokemon. Like, it gives you, the Pikachu or the Eevee who's, like, constantly there with you. There's all the stuff with, like, it streamlines the journey through and kind of makes it more about being a beginning Pokemon trainer, whereas this is more an expansion of the existing world in the sense, like, okay, this particular region, which is based very heavily on Britain, is...
It's basically set in...
England.
Yeah. They use mate, like every other
mate
word.
A lot. Like, there's certain landmarks you run into. A couple people say governor or some shit. It's just like stuff like that. It's like they throw like lingo in here and there to establish where it is, which is a little bizarre. But this is more like if you want a big kind of sprawling epic quest in the Pokemon world, whereas Let's Go is probably a more basic but also a little more pure. I would say, like, this has a lot more to do and but it can feel more scattered, whereas Let's Go is more focused, which some people would find boring.
I would argue that a lot of the extra stuff in this isn't particularly compelling, though.
No, but it can still feel like there's all this stuff to do, and after you do it for a while, you realize, like, why was I doing that? And it's just but it's still kind of that compelling thing of, like, walking through the grass and finding the new Pokemon and catching the Pokemon. It's all there.
Yep.
And it does use, I'm glad it uses the same kind of system as Let's Go did, where you can see the Pokemon, what they are in the grass. Yeah. There's no real... They do the same thing. You walk in the grass.
You can avoid them.
You can walk into the grass, like there's you can see visible Pokemon you can walk into and fight, but then like when you walk into grass, a lot of times an exclamation point pops up and there's like rustling in the grass. You go up to that, you get kind of a mystery battle, and sometimes it's the same Pokemon that you see physically in the grass, but sometimes it's the rare Pokemon from that grass patch, and that's how you get stuff that you couldn't catch otherwise. Like, it all kind of works pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good game. It's a good Pokemon game. There's no doubt about it. I've been playing this franchise now for like 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. And there hasn't been a lot of change from like the first couple Pokemons to this one.
No, it's
comfort food.
I know it's a repetition of the next lower third, but like if it ain't broke, like you don't need to reinvent Pokemon really.
Not when it sells like it does.
No, and then they're going to do a Let's Go of Gold and Silver next, and that's going to do even better. They have no motivation to reinvent the wheel on this thing.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see them continually this is their first attempt at a real console version. I'm sure that they will, when they sell us Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield with the full national Pokedex in a year and a half, I'm sure it will be
something that's conveniently been left out throughout all this is that everyone's freaking out about the Pokedex not being there. Well, that's why. They're going to release another version that has all of it.
Well, and even if that wasn't the original plan, now they know how to sell that to you.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, how do we sell them Ultra Shield and Ultra Sword? We put all the Pokemon in it.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen that people are hacking them. And they're taking the models from Let's Go and they're putting them into Sword and Shield.
I mean, that seemed pretty obvious. I mean, I think the backlash on this is pretty silly. Like,
it's completely silly.
The Game Freak lied hashtag is just kind of gross.
Especially after you play it and you realize, like, it doesn't matter.
No, like, I don't need 1,000 Pokemon in this thing.
Really don't. I already have more than I'll ever need. Yes. I have like 5 boxes full of Pokemon that I'll never even use in battle.
No, never look it up again. You're literally just enslaving animals for no good reason and putting them in a box somewhere.
Do they still use the tagline, gotta catch them all at this point? I don't think they do.
I'm sure they still say it in certain media, but I didn't notice it in this.
Yeah, because you can't in this, obviously.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that might be one of the greatest taglines in the history of marketing, though.
Gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah, because it compels people to want to use and consume your products. Yeah, absolutely.
And play it longer than you normally would.
Yep.
And to obsessively play it longer and to trade with other people. And then when the card game came out, to like get all the cards and it's genius.
It is pretty smart. I mean, collecting anything, if you're starting a business, if you can create something that people will collect, it's a good idea. It's like when Sifted first launched, we had achievements. And it was a huge thing for the first like year and a half. But then it got to the point where most of our power users had got most of the achievements and it died down. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, once you run out of things to collect, it's not as compelling. Right. So
I also love the I mean, I think about that a lot because we've worked so many stupid marketing gigs all over the years. how brilliant the imperative of gotta catch them all is. Like, because they could have gone different. It could have been, can you catch them all?
Yeah.
Like, will you catch them all?
You know, gotta.
Who can catch them all? It's like, no, it's gotta catch them all.
You have to catch them all.
And then you put it into a super catchy polka rap song, gets stuck in an entire generation's head for the next lifetime.
Yeah.
And like all you gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all. Like it's like a mantra. It's genius. And there's a reason this is the biggest media franchise in the world, because every move they made was correct.
Pokemon Company's pretty smart.
And the original concept, which came out of what's his name, the head of Game Freak, basically making a game out of collecting bugs when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, it taps into something primal with almost every child, and it's genius.
It absolutely is. Or collecting leaves. I had to do that when I was a kid. Like, and this is very much like that. Yeah,
there are even Pokemons that are leaves. I am I'm not. Once you get past like Diamond and Pearl, I don't really know a whole lot about like individual Pokemon anymore. I stopped keeping up with all the new monsters and stuff. I just played the games and sort of went through it. So I know some, but not all. Not even close to like half, probably beyond those first 3 games. But like some of the things I run into in this game, I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you? I mean, I can't believe that you cut all the stuff, so many Pokemon out of the decks. But you kept the trash bag one? Yeah. Like, someone's fucking with us at that point. Like, come on. Nobody wanted that in the game.
Yep. So I think we've established, though, that the whole hashtag Game Freak lie, it's a bunch of malarkey, and it's silly, and it's not a reason to not get the game.
I mean, if that's why you don't want the game, like, I can't stop you, but, like, you're missing out on another good Pokemon game.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's where I've kind of come down on this, is it's a good Pokemon game.
Yeah.
It's not a great game. The plot is whatever.
It's Pokemon. No one plays Pokemon for the story. Yeah. It's the same thing every time with minor tweaks.
It is strange,
Except
though.
Black and White. Black and White was a pretty good story.
It was really good.
Because it was about, like, Pokemon animal rights.
Yeah.
And, like,
it actually had a message.
Yeah, like, it went some places I really didn't think Nintendo would ever go.
And then it never went there again.
No, it never did that again.
They pulled back again. And this is the same plot. You're a kid. You want to become the Pokemon champ. You fight through all the gym leaders.
And I love all the, like, there's a lot of weird questions. Like, it's interesting to see this game kind of try to expand the world of Pokemon into something more than just a world obsessed with, fantasy cockfighting. Like, because there's a whole thing with, like, it's like, I do this and I do this and that and that. And I'm like, well, I don't see anywhere to do that. Like, someone talks about a football game. Like, someone talks about a soccer game, basically, at one point. I'm like, where do you play soccer here? Because I don't see anything except a Pokemon stadium that's always full of people fighting animals against each other. And, like, this thing, it's weird. And I noticed the cooking stuff sort of avoids the idea of, are you cooking Pokemon?
Right, yeah.
Because I don't see any cows, even though there are beef patties.
Right, yeah, you can buy everything. It's already processed or whatever.
And the other thing is, like, what was it? There was another thing that I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, where the very first time you go to the Pokemon Center, your idiot friend says...
Your rival.
Your rival guy says, I bet you've never been in one of these before. I'm like, you think I've never been in the Pokemons? All I want to do with my life is be a Pokemon trainer? You think I've never been in the Pokemon Center 20 yards from the house I grew up in?
It's a block from my house, yeah.
Like, are you serious? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's very child skewed in terms of the story and all that. But it's fun. Like you said, it's like brings back that feeling of like collecting stuff.
It is funny though how this is
seeing all the weird things pop up. I actually really like doing trainer battles and seeing what they have.
Yeah,
like if they throw out a Pokemon I've never seen before, or I've seen in other games, like I remember you. Like it's fun. It's like a weird mix of nostalgia and what the hell is that?
Yeah, because I like you. I don't know a lot of these Pokemon that are in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's as somebody who's been buying these and playing them for 20 years, like I could see where somebody who's 15, 16 years old, they don't care that they've been playing the same Pokemon. This is like their second Pokemon or whatever. But to me, this formula is definitely starting to get old.
Yeah, I mean, I would be less interested in this if it was another 3DS game. Like the fact that it does have a scope larger than what they've been able to do on the 3DS is interesting. I just hope for the next one. Well, the next one's probably going to be Gold and Silver, Let's Go, which I think is the best game in the series, Gold and Silver. So I'm on board with that no matter what. But then the next one after that, whatever is following Sword and Shield, like I hope they really pull the stops out because there's a good chance that might be on the next system.
That's my guess. Yeah.
So I'd really like to see them just pull the stops out on that and make it like a really crazy like not a reinvention, but just put the full Pokedex in it. Like, really make a world big enough to hold, 1,000 something Pokemon, and like, maybe even take a page from Gold Silver where like, okay, so the Pokemon for the next system is going to be like all the areas you've ever been to in a Pokemon game, all combined into a big world.
Yeah.
And you get to go all over, and there's like MMO elements with wild areas and all this stuff. Like, make it like the ultimate Pokemon game.
Yeah.
And like, just go nuts with it.
The crazy thing, too, about this franchise is it's the only turn-based RPG franchise that can get away with having a rubbish story.
True.
I mean, most of the games in this genre are driven by their story, and this is absolutely not. The story is probably the least prevalent part.
And it's also like not really driven by gameplay. It's driven,
collecting.
It's driven by obsession.
OCD.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's driven by filling that bar up.
Yep.
It's a Skinner box.
It is, absolutely.
It's the first mobile game.
Yeah, it kind of is.
A little bit.
So, do you recommend everybody buys this?
If you like Pokemon,
yeah,
like, it's not going to change your mind if you're not already catching the Pokemon fever.
Yeah, if you've tried Pokemon before and you didn't like it, this is not going to change your mind.
It's a super solid entry. It's way better than X and Y. And some of them, if you didn't like the more recent ones, I think it's a better game than like XY or.
I thought XY was pretty good.
XY is, I think it's the worst in the series.
That was the first one where they went to a 3D engine, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I think it's probably the worst one. There might have been a time I would have said Ruby Sapphire was.
It had like that tropical theme to it, right?
No, that was Sun Moon.
Sun and Moon, right? That was set in like a fictional Hawaii, basically.
Yes, Sun and Moon was good.
Yeah.
X and Y was meh. I would have said maybe Ruby Sapphire below that, but I think the remakes of Ruby and Sapphire are actually really good. So
I think Black and White is still my favorite Pokemon game.
Black and White's really good. Yeah, I think Black and White, at least Black and White is the most memorable one to me, in terms of like, even though it was the one where I started not paying attention to what the different new monsters were. Like, that's the one that sticks in my head story wise.
Yeah.
And it felt like they really, even though they didn't change the formula too much, I felt they broke some ground with it.
Yep.
And then but I like this. I like the realization of the world in 3D and how it's slowly getting better. Like, I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this game.
I don't really either.
It's just
they're mostly nitpicks.
We all know what it is. It's pretty much review proof. You know what you're getting into.
I think my biggest complaint about it is
no
that
surprises.
I could have reviewed it before playing it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely.
I've played like, I don't know, 20 plus hours at this point, and like, I don't feel like I have all that much more insight on the game than I had before I played it.
No, definitely not. I certainly was thinking about that around the time I finished the first gym. I'm just like, I don't know if I needed to do this.
What do I talk about?
Yeah, I don't know what to say except like it's real. I mean, we have talked a lot about it, but like, I don't think we've said anything specifically that you couldn't tell by looking at the B-roll.
Yeah.
It's just it's right there in front of you.
And it is what it is. Yeah.
Probably more than any other use of that phrase this year.
That's true.
It is what it is.
Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's Pokemon Sword and Shield, a full price game on Switch at $60. I would probably still recommend people buy it. If anything, just...
Well, it ain't dropping anytime soon.
Yes,
so.
The price isn't going to drop. And if anything, just for the value proposition, like I said, I'm a little more than halfway through. I'm over 20 hours playing it already. You're probably going to get around 40 hours out of the main campaign and then all the online stuff. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of DLC and extra stuff released for this game. There's going to be raids that probably will be dropped as DLC. Mm-hmm. This game's going to have legs. So you're going to be able to get value out of it after the 40 hours that you spend playing the base campaign. So it's a really good value. It's a solid entry in the franchise. It's not exceptional. But you know what you're getting at least. You know you can buy this with confidence and you don't have to worry about any surprises. Technically, it's sound. Like, I didn't have any bugs or issues with it. A typical Nintendo first-party product in that regard. So I think you can, if you like Pokemon, you can buy it with confidence. And if you haven't liked Pokemon in the past, you can pass with confidence and not have like FOMO or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty far into the game, and there hasn't been a moment yet in this game where I'm like, oh my God, thank God I played Pokemon for the last 20 years so I can savor this moment that they've been building up. Like, there's so much room, I believe, to make this franchise better. I think a lot of it starts with the story. Has a Pokemon ever died in one of these games? I don't think one ever has.
No, I mean, in the cartoon there were references to that, and I think there's a couple of times in some of the other games where you're clearly eating Magikarp.
Yeah.
So like,
They do die.
They don't die on screen, but they can be killed.
But that's an angle they could take with the story. Maybe there's a plague that's in taking over Pokemon. It's like this disease or whatever. There's a lot.
That's pretty dark.
Right, but there's a lot of things that they can do with the story.
Yeah, but it's more lucrative to just assume that there's always going to be a new batch,
generation
a new
of
batch of 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
You don't need to make the mature Pokemon game. I don't think that's a needed thing.
So chat saying, Vincent says the Marowak in red and blue, and then the Abrams says in red and blue the Cubone's mom died.
He wears the skull of his mother.
Of his mom, which is, talk about dark.
And there was something where it was implied that your rival's Pokemon dies in one of them. Maybe that was red blue. Yeah, it's
rare. They don't.
It's very
fleeting.
It's subtext.
Death is fleeting.
It's Dark Souls style lore. It's in there, but you got to dig.
You got to dig for it. So anyway, there you go. That's Pokemon Sword and Shield for Switch. I think that's a buy from both of us for the average player.
Yeah, for the average Pokemon. I mean, you already have it.
You do, really.
If you're a Pokemon fan, you got this already.
Yeah,
so.
You probably got it. All right, let's move on.
You're probably playing it while you're listening to this.
Yeah, because that's what I did.
Yeah.
I watched football on Sunday and played Pokemon all day. I'll add this, too. I played this game in handheld mode almost exclusively. I played console mode to get footage, and then once I got 2 hours in and I had enough footage for B-roll for the show, then I just started playing it on handheld. And, yeah, it reminds me how awful the Switch's battery is.
Mm-hmm.
You get about 2 hours and you're done.
Yeah, my friend is playing. She has a Lite, and so she's playing it.
Okay.
And she said on Saturday, she played it all day Saturday, and she said she ran the battery down to nothing 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep,
play it plugged in, I guess.
The new ones are better, but I have a launch unit, and the batteries are...
I've played it, obviously, entirely TV.
You did?
So, I've never played the Switch handheld.
I've had to play so many games. I've had to multitask. And this was perfect. I'm like, I can play this handheld while I do something else. So it actually worked out pretty well. And I think that reminds me that, in fact, it is a handheld game first, really.
Yeah.
And it's set up well. Like, all the text is big enough to read if you play in handheld mode and blah, blah, blah. So there you go.
Well, I hope so. Game Freak knows what they're doing. That's their expertise, after all.
Yep, for sure. So there you go. That's Pokemon Sword and Shield. We're going to move on. We're going to talk next about the PlayStation 5 controller. Someone asked Pac about the PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 controllers a couple episodes ago, and he basically was like, I don't know. But this week, I guess it was maybe even yesterday, patents for the PlayStation 5 controller were posted with the patent office, and very quickly a number of outlets picked up on it. All we have right now are the sketches for the patent, and they were really low resolution, and they're really hard to see. But on the left is the new controller, and on the right is the DualShock 4. There are a couple things about it that have been gleaned from the patent itself. First of all, there's no light bar. What do you think that means for PlayStation VR 2, Matt? That they're not going to need to track that?
Either that or they found another way to track that controller.
Yeah, so you think all the move stuff is going to become obsolete?
Probably.
That's what I figured too.
Either that or you can still use it, but it's not the preferred way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. The light bar is annoying, so because if you play in the dark room,
it shines right up.
Shines yeah. It's like, at least the one on top for the Pro controller does. Like the one on the back of it never really bothered me, but like. Yeah, get the blue light out of my eye. Thank you.
Yeah. So they said the light bar. Does that mean the light on the front of the controller too?
It sounds like it, yeah.
Actually, go back to that image real quick, Jared, and scroll down so we can see kind of the front of the controller, or zoom out.
Because you can see there, like the light bar is up at top. Well, that's not the front.
Yeah, I guess I don't have an angle.
You can see the light bar on scroll up a little bit more to the middle one. Yeah, you can see the light bar there is on the DS4.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, actually, both of them. The light on the front and the light bar.
Although, it is worth noting that, like, there is no detail on the bottom of this thing. There's not even screws on it.
Yeah.
So there might be something else. They might just be blanking that out for a separate thing. Like, there
true.
might be stuff on there that we don't know about that's not part of this patent application if it's so specialized that they want to have a separate patent for it.
Yeah.
Because that looks real blank to me.
It also, on the left, it looks like it does have the bar on the touchpad still.
Well, it definitely has the raised top of the touchpad there.
Yeah, but that big light on the front is gone.
But is it gone because it's gone, or is it gone because that's going to be another thing? They haven't finalized that, so it's not in this design.
It could be, absolutely. The triggers are bigger on the new controller. You can see it there at the top of that middle image. They're wider. Mm-hmm. They don't look like they're longer, but they look like they're wider, so maybe it could grip your index finger a little better while you're using it. Smaller analog sticks. How do you feel about that?
I don't care so much as long as they're not convex.
Yeah.
Or concave, rather.
Or wait, as long as they're not rounded.
Convex. As long as they're not rounded on top like mushrooms, like the old ones.
As long as they are concave.
As long as they are concave.
Your thumb fits into the groove, so to speak.
That was the biggest improvement of the DualShock 4 to me.
I think a lot of people's, and I think most people love the DualShock 4, myself included. It's probably my favorite controller of this generation. But
Xbox Elite, baby.
Well, I haven't even cracked open the one I got last week because I don't have an Xbox game to play right now. I've been playing PS4 and Switch. So
but it is definitely the best PlayStation controller ever.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Without a doubt. So I think a lot of people are probably tied pretty closely to the DualShock, but I think their common complaint is that it's too small. Mm-hmm. That seems to be a complaint among people who have bigger hands, is that it's already too small. And to make the analog stick smaller, I think maybe throws up a red flag for them.
Maybe. I mean, it doesn't look that small. Like,
it doesn't bother me, and I have pretty much normal size hands.
Yeah, I mean, I can handle the Duke just fine. I can handle the DualShock 4 just fine. I mean, I'm pretty non-picky when it comes to controllers.
Yeah,
I can play anything.
I'm not like a controller snob or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the old NES controllers, but it's because they're giant rectangles.
Yeah, I'm okay with the analog sticks being shorter because it means that you have less movement with your thumb to get more action out of the stick. Mm-hmm. It's just basic math, basically.
Yeah, I'm sure whatever it is, I'm sure I'll adjust to it.
Yeah,
just fine. Like if I can play the DualShock 3, I can play this thing.
And then a USB port. I'm assuming it's going to be USB-C.
Probably. I think everything will be.
Yeah. I mean, going forward, everything is going to be USB-C. I mean, you can see there at that image that we're seeing right now, like where you plug in your headset and everything is completely different. Mm-hmm. What do you think that is there, Matt?
I don't know. I don't know much about headsets. I don't use them. So if that's like a specific thing that headsets have, or that's a specific like interface, I don't know what that is.
I mean, it looks like there's like 2 8-inch jacks there.
A little bit.
I'm wondering if that's one for mic and one for headset.
Could be, yeah.
But that strip, that vertical strip that goes, I have no idea what that is.
I don't know. I mean, some of that could be on the other side. Like, because if you look, it says the USB port
Jared.
on the DS4. It shows the USB port there, but that's on the back of the controller. So there could be stuff there that's on the top of the controller that we don't know.
That would be weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think overall of the changes? Do you think it's smart to just basically keep the same thing? And
I mean, I don't know, smart, but like it's what was going to happen. Like because I mean, the controller shape is their trademark logo almost.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's worked for them so far. So like you say, if it ain't broke, just keep going.
I'm still trying to figure out what that thing is below the home button. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. It could be like just like a indicator light for something.
Yeah,
like,
to show maybe your headset's plugged in or something.
Yeah,
or it's making a Bluetooth connection.
Or shows connected to the system or something.
How do you feel in general about controllers generation to generation?
Pretty much don't care.
You don't care? You wouldn't prefer if they had some kind of new functionality? No?
I don't need more gimmicks in my stupid controllers. I just need them to work for longer than a year, unlike the PS4
So you're looking for more durability, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Or a better warranty.
Yeah, I'm definitely down with that. I am someone who does like to see... I like to see hardware manufacturers trying to push the boundaries a little bit. I'm not necessarily saying that this controller needs to be motion controlled, although I wouldn't be bummed out if that were the case. I'm not saying it needs that, but just something to make it a little bit exciting.
I mean, it is thicker, like vertically, so like top to bottom, like on that back shot you can see. So it makes me wonder if there might be gyro controls in it for gyro aiming, like because that's been a thing that PlayStation has kind of neglected. That like Switch owners have really. I mean, I have no interest in doing it whatsoever, but like. it seems to be a feature that people like on the Switch for shooters and stuff, so I could see them maybe wanting to implement that.
The PlayStation 3 had gyro.
Yeah, it wasn't used for stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm
talking about like Splatoon-style aiming. Yeah. I could see them kind of integrating that maybe. But in general, I mean, I'm glad it's not like going weird with like, you know, there's rumors about the video screen and all that stuff. I mean, who knows?
It doesn't look like it.
It doesn't look like it, but who knows? You know. But I would rather
what if
not.
That thing down there is the camera?
That could be, yeah.
Because the rumors are swirling.
I'm gonna go get a piece of tape and put it over it.
Because the rumors are swirling that cameras are going to be
angle.
Integrated into both the consoles. And
Yeah.
what if it's in the controller? So it's like a selfie type thing.
It's possible. I got no interest in any of that.
Me either.
But like,
me either. But a lot of people will.
No, that would make sense in terms of what you see there. Yeah,
it's at the perfect spot. It's on the top of the controller. It's possible. Just me guessing. But I would like to see some type of
innovation. Could be what's
innovation.
replacing the hardware that's in there for the light bar.
That's true.
There's only so much room in something that size.
Yeah, I would like to see some kind of innovation from the controller. It doesn't look like we're going to get it, but I'm
care.
also okay with just using the DualShock 4 from the PS4 Pro for the next 8 years.
Right.
It's a great controller, so I'm not going to be bummed out either way.
Well, also because like any innovation, or if you even want to call it innovation, I would probably call it more like a desperate gimmick, because that's what they always end up being. They're using the launch titles and the launch window stuff, and then no one ever uses them for anything again.
Yeah.
I mean, at least in this case, it wouldn't be like the Kinect, where I wasted $100 buying a forced bundle with it, and now it's in a drawer somewhere that I'm probably never going to look at again the rest of my life. But like,
it's all coming back now, though. I mean, both these consoles are going to have cameras.
Yeah, but I feel like they're not going to be a separate weird thing I have to set up separately.
I'm not going to spend an extra $100 for the thing. And I mean, even the last camera for PlayStation was what, 60 something? I think
more.
Was it more?
Yeah.
And that thing was a piece of junk.
Yeah, because I looked at buying it because I had the old one from the PS3 that also worked with the VR.
The iToy.
Yeah, and then so I just used that because I think the replacement one was like 80 or something.
Was it 80?
I think so. It's been a long time.
I bought it and I have no idea why. I think I've used it like once, like ever.
I had the iToy specifically because I wanted to use the Move controllers to play House of the Dead games. Mm-hmm. I bought the gun, like the things where you plug the Move controller into like the little pistol thing and play it like that. Because that's what I wanted it for House of the Dead and Point Blank. And I did. I got them, and then I played them once, and then
never used them again. You're not alone. I do stuff like that all the time. So anyway, that's what we know so far about the PlayStation 5 controller. It's just a patent. My guess is this will be one of the final things that is unveiled for the PlayStation 5 around E3 time-ish, is my guess. Usually controllers are one of the last things that they unveil for new hardware. So this is probably the last taste we're going to get of this stuff for a while, but pretty good taste nonetheless. I mean, we have a pretty good idea that it's going to stray pretty close to the DualShock 4.
I think the systems, both the new systems are going to be pretty strongly just like, here is what we did before, but more powerful and theoretically better. Like, they're not going to try to break any molds with these things. Yep. Not like last gen where it was just like, we might change how games are distributed. Here's the set-top box. Here's guys from ESPN to talk for 10 minutes for no good reason at our press conference. Like, I don't think you're going to see any of that.
Yep. Zakalia Seldom says forced camera equals no buy.
Well, no.
I don't think you have a choice, bro.
Yeah, I think they're both going to have that. Like, that's it.
Yeah, you're gonna
just get some electrical tape and put it over the lens or something.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's probably going to increase the price of the console like $3 or whatever. Yeah. It's not going to be like Kinect where the consoles are going to cost $600 because you're paying $100 for this stupid camera contraption that you're never going to use.
It's going to be
integrated into it. Like, you're going to buy it. You're going to, in a camera or not, you're going to buy it. Guaranteed.
Yeah, just like it's like a laptop or something. Just stick one of those privacy things over it and call it a day.
Yep. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Stadia. We talked about it last week. We're not going to talk about it long today, but today is Stadia's launch day, and reviews have been coming in.
Thanks for taking a break from all your Stadia play to watch this.
Oh, boy. Yeah, oh, boy. Oh,
Did
man.
anyone in the Bay Area get hand-delivered the Founders Kit by that guy on the Reddit AMA? Because they offered to do that? Because I would love to hear that story.
Yeah, so they did the AMA that was a complete and total disaster. People asking them tons of questions they couldn't answer. They had no answer for.
Somebody asked, like, when does it come to Apple iOS devices? And the guy said, wow, I wish I knew the answer to that.
It's like, no, bro, you're the one who's supposed to know the answer to that.
Oh, boy.
So the reviews for Stadia have been abysmal. I have not seen, at least as far as what we've curated, there has not been a single positive review for Google Stadia.
No. I mean, there have been a lot of like, oh, the tech when it works is really impressive, but don't buy it. Like,
yeah,
it's just like,
and they basically say the same thing you've been saying all along, which is, who is this for?
Mm-hmm. It's for China and India.
Yeah, but they struggle to find, like, why would our audience want this?
Yeah, because there's already an established market in America, North America and Europe, that offers a better way to access this software. Like, there's no reason to not want to own your games here. Whereas in the Chinese and Indian markets, you're more for the infrastructure is more there for it, but also like, if you don't get it through Stadia, you're not playing it.
Yeah,
like they have you by the balls basically in those markets. That's the point. That's the purpose of this. Every developer I know who's working on Stadia stuff says that's why they're doing this. Is they want that Asian market.
China could be bumpy.
It very much could be, yes.
That market, they watch everything that you release.
But at the same time, Google has pretty much left the "don't be evil" mantra behind, so they can adjust how they need to make China happy, and they hope they rake in all that money.
The irony is that Google has been one of the companies that has resisted going into China.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other explanation for what this is for.
I totally believe you. But it is weird that Google, of all the big tech companies, it is like the one that has taken a stance on China. It's the only tech company that's not in the weird position that Blizzard was in, where it's like, we're making all this money over there and we can't like let it go.
But at the same time, there's a potential audience there of 200 to 300 million people, and you cannot not try.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And this is pretty much their best bet, it seems like.
For sure.
But for us, like, like I said, it's a solution in search of a problem.
Don't you think it's strange that this was marketed all along as being this service where it was free and you just had to pay for the games, and it launches and nothing is free? Like, you can't play anything for free.
I don't understand why it launched now.
I don't either.
Like, I don't see what the rush was to get this thing out now.
I think it was the old way of thinking, and Phil Harrison's running the thing, so it's not that surprising, but I think it's the old way of thinking of, you got to be there by Christmas.
I guess.
But I think it's just going to hurt it more than it would help. I mean, sure, maybe they sold out however many units of the Founders Edition they had, but now the word on the street is that the thing is worthless and no one should buy it. And so does it matter? Like, to me, the better idea is to make sure it works well when you launch it, so that the word of mouth spreads. So even though people are like, it's not for me, but it's good. Now people are like, it's not for me and it sucks. You're just closing the door on so many potential customers who may, in a year's time, think really long and hard about, do I want to spend $400 on a PS5?
And like, even the stuff they praise, were like, I saw one review that's like, hey, but when you play it on this phone with an attached controller thing, like the Stadia controller attached, like, this is an amazing way to play something on a phone. I'm like, I mean, yeah, cool.
I get that, yeah.
But A, I would never want to do that, and B, why have the super-powered computers running this thing if I'm just going to have to watch it on a 6-inch
screen?
Like, it seems to kind of contradict what the mission statement was. And then you see stuff like, I think it was Gene Park, I think, had a tweet where he talked a lot about like his review of it, but he's like, here's my review of Stadia in one GIF, and it was him at a computer in the office of his workplace with a multi-gigabit fiber connection, whatever, and he's tapping the space bar on a first-person shooter, and you see him, like, he taps it, puts his hands up, and then the character jumps. It's like, it's a full second between pressing the button and jumping.
Well, Stadia, Google, you can tell, has caught the breeze, because it was supposed to have just 12 games available for launch, and yesterday it announced, we're going to have 24 available tomorrow.
Yeah, which good.
I don't think that's going to make any difference.
If you had that to begin with, why did you not launch like that in the first place? But because now it comes off as sort of like desperate.
Because I know that they wanted to continue momentum. They wanted to have that launch with the 12, and they wanted to be able to say, "Oh, this week here's 4 more. This week there's 4 more. Next week there's 4 more. Before the last week of the year, here's 4 more." And I don't think they're able to do that anymore because they're in like desperation mode now. They're like, "Oh my gosh, nobody cares. It's been railed by the press. We got to do something to try to save this."
And it's not any. I mean, this isn't any different than any other streaming service launches before. People said the same thing about PlayStation Now and OnLive back in the day, where it's just like, "Oh yeah, it's impressive that works, but I don't need it. Like I don't want it. Like it's just like and even if it did work flawlessly, you can't trust the infrastructure in almost any country at this point. There's like countries that are better or worse than America, or like Europe has some that are better and worse than each other, but like the reliability factor just isn't there. And when it works, it's great is not really a good enough reason for me to get rid of my PC. It's like I don't get it. Like I don't know what. And like you still can't. You have to, if you want to play it on a phone, you still need to use another phone to like activate it, because like you have to use the phone to control it, but then you have to have the device that streams it is separate from that phone. It's bizarre.
It is.
Like it's bizarre that they felt the need to put this out now. Like, why not wait until the whole thing's ready, the free version is ready, like just put it all out in March. Like you still get it out before end of fiscal, but like I don't know what this does.
And then you'd have more software, because the other big complaint that everyone has had is there are no unique games for it.
Like if you want to replay a Tomb Raider game from the last 5 years, like you're set.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
why I don't get it.
Phil Harrison's track record, let's just be honest, has not been great since he's left PlayStation. And people could argue during his reign at PlayStation, things weren't great because he oversaw the launch of the PlayStation 3, which was a massive failure. So,
although most of that was not his fault.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some shifty stuff going on, but like he didn't design that horrible box of
nonsense. But as management, it's always your fault.
Yeah.
Even when it's not, it's your fault. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's why you get paid more than everybody else. It's your job to see problems coming and try to head them off at the pass. You can't always do that, but you're still blamed for it when you don't.
But I think he may have, and just no one was going to listen to the British guy at Sony Japan, because genius Ken Kutaragi was designing the cell processor.
Look, I'm not blaming it entirely on him. I'm saying it's a pattern now, because that happened at PlayStation. You're right. It could have been his fault. It could have been someone else's fault. Then he went to Microsoft, and he oversaw not the worst era of Xbox, but coming off the victory that was Xbox 360, it was a pretty big disappointment. And now he's at Google Stadia, where it's limping out of the gate. I don't know. I mean, you think about like the studios there; they cannot get games out soon enough. Like Jade Raymond, I cannot even imagine the pressure that she's under right now, particularly now that the reviews have come out. And the biggest complaint about it mostly is that there's no software for it. So, hey, again, she's getting paid the big bucks, and I know she can handle it, but it's not. I don't envy her.
Like this is the one exclusive that's up right now, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's weird, like watching the character run around in this. The way the camera placement and the movement feels like a PC game from like 2003.
Yep.
Like it reminds me of the first Alyx.
Yeah.
Like American McGee's Alyx.
Yeah.
Like not just because it's a dark-haired girl, but it has that sort of too flat, too smooth like motion where like, when early third-person games were just like, we basically made a first-person shooter, but we slapped a character model in the front of the camera and called it third person.
Yeah.
Like it has that quality to it.
Yeah, it's I don't know where they go from here, to be honest with you.
I don't know.
I mean, where do you go? You have no games, and they're not going to just magically appear.
But like, I don't know. Maybe this is just a tech demo since she's on a stage.
The other thing too is that
I know there's one exclusive game that came out and it's like fine.
Yeah,
like, that's basically what the reviews said. I can't remember the name of it.
The other thing too is that I'll say this: they had kind of a year. They have a year window to establish Stadia before the new consoles come out. But you're right. I think March probably is good enough. I can understand why they wanted to get it out a year before the next generation of consoles, and
who knows? Maybe they had like promises or contracts or guarantees in place with publishers that they'd have this thing out before the end of 2019. I don't know how much money you're going to make on that as those public. I can't imagine Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Rise of the Tomb Raider are selling a hand over fist here, but
I'm sure they were subsidized.
There might have been some agreements in place.
The other big problem to me is that during this debut presentation, all the stuff that I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's something different. That's really cool. None of that stuff is available
none of it's
at launch.
Implemented yet.
Like, all the coolest stuff isn't there. Like, all the stuff that you're seeing here. Like, you're watching a YouTuber play a game, and then you can just, like, join the game with him, or you can buy and launch the game from that YouTube page. Like, all that stuff. Not there.
Yeah, it's basically like PlayStation Now 4 years ago, but without Sony games.
With a lot less games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's who you're competing with, right? PlayStation Now. Think about that. How do you compete with PlayStation Now with this? You can't.
Why would you want to compete? It's like
they have like 1 million subscribers a month.
Yeah, when was the last time you thought about PlayStation Now?
I know. I mean, that's going to change. Attitudes towards game streaming are going to change.
Like the highest visibility PlayStation Now has really had is when they changed. They changed to be able to download stuff. But beyond that, there were a lot of people who are like, "Oh, when PlayStation View was announced, it's like, wait, is that streaming service?"
Right? Yeah, they got confused.
It's not a thing. Like no service like this has gained any real form of mind share, with good reason, because it's not. The tech isn't there, and the speed of light's never going to change unless there's some. I'm sure someone is out there trying to disrupt that with like some tech. It's like here at
Atom Smasher.
Here at Faster with no E, we don't believe in relativity, and you don't have to be an Einstein to see why that'll help your productivity too.
That's pretty good.
Where's my venture capital funding?
Yeah. So there you go. That's Stadia. It's available today, although to most of you, it's actually not available.
Yeah.
Because if you did not get the Founders Edition...
And you shouldn't.
But even if you wanted to, you can't. It's sold out. The whole thing is just bizarre.
Yeah, like I'm not going to play this until they go live for free, basically, next year.
When I can use just whatever controller I have knocking around.
When you can do what they said you're going to do.
Yeah.
Like when the very few advantages that are part of this service... there. Yeah, because otherwise, what are you doing? Like, what do I want to do? Play Destiny
2
on a stream? Like, why?
I mean, that's its like flagship killer app at launch.
Yeesh.
I know. I mean, that's where it is. That's where it's at. So, solid pass from both of us on Google Stadia. Not that you could buy it if you wanted to. We'll readdress this sometime in 2020 as more features start coming online when the free thing launches. Although I have a feeling we may be bringing it up before then as it continues to flounder and we start getting reports out of Google that, maybe they're pulling the plug or they're going to pivot or something. So we'll see. But that's Google Stadia, available now for people who pre-ordered, and everybody else is saved.
Yeah.
You save from yourself. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about X19.
Yeah.
Microsoft finally had its X event again after many, many years of it not happening. It used
X finally going to give it to you.
Yeah. It used to be a gigantic event that people looked forward to every year. And it was always in Europe or some far-flung place. And then it disappeared. And I think it disappeared because Microsoft just didn't have anything to talk about. Its first-party output was so bad that it just didn't have enough content to buoy the show. This year, that all changed. Obviously, Microsoft has purchased a couple, or 5 actually, studios to help them create first-party software. I think the thought was, though, that those purchases just happened. So how could these studios have anything to show at X19? Oh, did they ever have something to show? I was blown away by how much was in this X19 presentation. Not just the overall number, but the quality and the surprises and the stuff from the new studios at X19. It was a pleasant surprise. If you're an Xbox fan, you are in your heyday here. If you're somebody who's already committed to the Xbox too, you got to be pretty encouraged by what we've seen here. Although that is a question that I have right off the top. Okay, so we're going to go game by game here in a minute. But let's talk about the bigger picture here, which is the fact that Microsoft just announced a handful of brand new games almost 12 months to the day before its new console comes out. And most of these games were announced for Xbox One. Is that did this just steal the thunder for the Xbox 2's big unveiling?
Of course not.
You think they're going to have other games?
Absolutely.
Really?
Everything they showed. See, I don't agree with you at all on this. I think this presentation was incredibly underwhelming. I'm interested in literally none of the games they revealed.
Wow.
Maybe the one where the Honey I Shrunk the Kids one, like that. Maybe once I find out more about it, but nothing in that lineup makes me interested.
Age of Empires 4?
Well, Age of Empires 4 we already knew
Wasteland
about.
3?
Wasteland 3 I'm already a fig backer on, but I'm talking about the new stuff they announced.
Oh.
None of that stuff interests me.
Okay, well, we'll go game by game in a minute. And
also Wasteland 3, I'm like, cool, but I already backed it on Fig, and I'm getting a PC code, so it doesn't really do me any good.
Right.
I just think they're not filling the holes. They're expanding their lineup, but they're not filling the holes in the lineup. And I think that's because the games that are really going to blow you away and say, like, oh, that was missing from the Xbox exclusive lineup or missing from the Xbox lineup, those are going to be the Xbox Scarlet, whatever we're going to call it. Those are going to be the things we see next year. These feel like pretty small. These feel like appetizers to me. Everything in this thing felt like appetizers.
You got to remember, though, these studios they have to work on these games.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're going to be working on them for another year and a half.
Yeah. I also think all these things are going to run on the new Xbox.
They will,
well.
absolutely.
So, like, it'll be part and parcel. But I don't think any of this shows us, except maybe Flight Simulator, is showing us like something that they're going to push as like, look what this new thing can do. I think we're going to get like 2 other games that are probably Forza. Probably gonna get Forza and some other thing we don't know about yet. That would be my guess. There'd be 2.
You think at launch?
Yeah, launch games would be Forza, because it's been a while since Forza Motorsport. We'll probably get Forza 8, and we'll probably get some other thing. I don't know what that.
I mean, Halo Infinite obviously is.
Yeah, Halo Infinite obviously, but maybe whatever the other thing Playground Games is working on. You know?
Yeah.
Because there's the rumor about them doing some kind of RPG.
I just wonder if all these studios are already working on these projects. I just don't see them having another one ready.
Well, no, I don't think they will have another one ready. No, but like,
so which studios are you counting on? Obviously,
I just said
Playground
Games,
yeah,
and Forza Turn 10, and you've got Halo Infinite coming. Those are your 3 800-pound gorillas for the launch of the Scarlet.
But don't you think you need like surprises?
Well, no, because a lot of the people already are surprised by what this is, and most people that are the ones who are going to make, hopefully make your new system a big multi-million seller don't even know that this thing aired. So,
yeah.
But again, I don't think this closes the gap as much as maybe you might want to think it does if you're like an internal Microsoft exec. Because like, while I am interested in Don't Nod's game because Don't Nod makes great stuff.
Yep.
But like, I don't know what gap you think you're filling with Grounded. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's cool to see Rare doing another game again, but it also looks like half the indie game.
That's not the Rare game.
Yeah, but I mean the Rare game. I don't remember what the name of the Rare ever or something. Yeah, that looks cool, but it also looks a little too similar to Grounded, and it also looks a lot like half the indie games I see, in the pipeline.
Do you think this feeds into what we were talking about last week when we were talking about Playtonic being purchased by Microsoft? Because that's the first thing I thought of when I saw Rare's new game. I was like, oh, okay, Rare is not going to revert to making family-friendly content. This is its next game here.
I mean, it's nice that they're actually letting them out of the
absolutely.
The pen for once.
But they're not going to fill that void.
No.
So maybe the Playtonic rumors have a little more weight than we thought.
I mean, it really seems like they don't at this point.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see what happens by March. Like, I feel like you buy them before the end of fiscal, so I imagine we'll find out in the next few months.
I do agree with you, though. This isn't filling out the genre bingo card for Microsoft.
Right.
It's redundant. The games that they're showing are redundancies.
They might be fun, but I don't think it if I'm someone who thinks that Xbox doesn't have enough to offer me, I don't think any of these sway that opinion. Like, I don't think that, because I do like my Xbox and I generally like what Microsoft puts out. But in terms of like battle strategy, I don't think anything in this lineup helped.
All right, let's start going through everything that Microsoft announced. The first thing I would say that lends credence to what you're saying, in that people maybe aren't going to be as excited over these games as you might think, is the fact that of everything that was released at XO19 or X19, the most popular piece of content on Sifted was the trailer for Halo Reach for PC. Like double. Like the views of this were double any of the other trailer. Think about that. This game is so old, and I do know that its release on PC has been a dragged out affair where
it's
people
never
are
been
like,
on PC,
right?
So, yeah.
But I think people thought when they announced it was coming that it was going to be there way earlier than
sooner than a year later. Yeah,
it's like it'll launch on December 3rd. I think there's a beta going on right now.
There have been betas going on for months,
right?
Since like July.
So finally, we got some definitive news on it, which I can understand why there's interest. But wow, like double the views of anything else from XO19, like that's pretty crazy to me.
I mean, I think it makes total sense when you look at that lineup. It's just this is the only exciting thing if you're this kind of gamer. If you're more of a action shooter gamer, more of a mainstream person, like there's nothing. Everything else just looks like indie filler or something that they're going to throw on Game Pass and act like it's a bigger library than it really is.
Well, I mean, they are going to throw everything on Game
Pass. Of course,
Pass, and we'll get to
that's what I mean. Is like it's just more Game Pass content
fodder. But yeah,
which I'm glad I'll be able to play all these without paying for them.
That's true.
But
But yeah, Halo Reach launches for PC December 3rd. That seemed like an afterthought to me. When I first stacked the show, this game was at the bottom of the list of games we were going to discuss, and then I went and looked at the metrics on Sifted and realized that it was the most popular thing from it, and I bumped it up to the top.
It's the last good Halo game.
Yeah, so. I think a lot of people do consider it that. So
Bungie's farewell.
Yeah, it was. So December 3rd, that hits PC. Next up, Bleeding Edge. If you guys remember, Bleeding Edge is the fighter brawler from Ninja Theory that leaked before E3.
Right. And then, wasn't really mentioned outside of that trailer.
Yeah, it wasn't. They put out the official version of the trailer, and then it was in Microsoft's area at E3, in the theater. It was up on stage, and you could go play it, which was surprising because it had just been announced 2 hours earlier, and it was playable. Well, it all makes sense now because this game is almost finished. It's coming out in March 24th to be exact. When you talk about games that don't inspire me, this is the poster child right here. Yeah. I have pretty much zero interest in this game. I don't like the art in it. I don't like the vibe and the tone of it. It's like an Alice Cooper album cover from 1979. I don't know what I know what they're thinking. They're trying to build a game as a service where they can sell DLC and new characters and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I know why they're trying to do it, but I'm surprised this game got the green light. I could have looked at the character designs from the artist and been like, nah, scarecrow dude with a vacuum hose around his neck. I think we need to rework that a little bit. I don't know who gave the green light to this. Ninja Theory isn't even known for this genre. It's not in its wheelhouse. I don't know. I mean, obviously it has made some character-driven action games in the past.
I mean, but this is a pretty far cry from Hellblade.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of the antithesis of Hellblade. It's the least thoughtful game that's on the market.
I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe this is just something they wanted to do. Maybe
it's been kicking around Ninja Theory for a while, and Microsoft bought them, and they're like, hey, we have this game that we worked on for 2 years, and the other publisher bailed on it. What do you think of it? And maybe Microsoft is sitting there saying, well, we did just spend a big chunk of change on you guys.
And we don't have anything like that, really.
Yeah,
so.
And if you're saying that you can get this done in 8 months, polish it up, finish it off, then sure. That to me is the only way I can see this game getting a green light. I don't know. If you can't tell, I'm not very excited for Bleeding Edge. But nevertheless, coming March 24th, it will be on Game Pass day one. Launches for both Xbox One and PC. Next up, Wasteland 3. We've kind of discussed that a little bit already. In that video we were watching at first, which was a countdown of this event that Microsoft did itself, it listed Wasteland 3 as number one out of the 10 things that it listed as the most exciting, most important thing at X19. What do you think about that? I mean, you might agree with that.
I do agree with that. It's certainly the most, other than Halo. I understand the excitement over Halo Reach, but this is, of the new stuff, the only thing of real interest. Obviously I backed it on Fig, so Wasteland was one of my favorite games growing up. As a matter of fact, to this day, I consider Fallout to be the poor man's Wasteland sequel, which is indeed what it was because they couldn't make it sequels. The EA wouldn't let them do it, so they went and made Fallout.
Yep.
and I liked it that it's back. I liked Wasteland 2 a lot. This looks even better, kind of in the vein of like a Divinity Original Sin sort of take on things. I'm a little surprised that it's getting pushed as hard as it is here, because it's still an isometric RPG. It still is not really the thing that blows the doors off the charts. You know what I mean? But hey, if they want to double down on that, cool. Like, it's something that a lot of people maybe have never given a chance. There's a little more of an XCOM flavor to it now, so that could be an appeal. But yeah, for sure, this is the most interesting thing they showed in terms of new content.
And that's coming May 19th. It'll also be on Game Pass day one.
Yep.
It's pretty insane.
There's
what a
Scorpitron.
Yep.
There's always a Scorpitron in every Wasteland game.
Yep. So May 19th, this trailer is actually the story trailer. It gives you a synopsis of the plot. If you want to check that out, that's on Sifted. Just search for Wasteland 3. It's probably at the top of that game page if you want to check it out. Next up, Grounded, or as I like to call it, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the video game.
Pretty much.
It's a survival game where you play as a tween who has been shrunken down, so it's the small person, big world aesthetic. And it's a cooperative shooter, it appears.
Sort of, yeah. It's like a cooperative survival shooter game in a backyard.
Where you play as a group of teens. It's not just you. There's a whole crew of kids who have been shrunken down. Did you ever like the Army Men games?
No.
Pactor dropped an Army Men reference in yesterday's
they are not good games. I do know that they were the thing that was keeping that company alive for a long
huge.
Time. They sold like crazy.
It's really bizarre how popular, like the N64 era, it was huge. And it was so bad.
They were big on the PS1 when I was running that game store in like 98, 99. And we could not keep them in stock.
I know.
Like,
and they're
if someone traded one in, it would be gone in an hour.
It's
nuts.
It
was crazy.
I never got it.
Sarge's Heroes could not keep that thing in stock.
Huge.
I don't know. Like, you can tell it was something, because I remember
Not Cirque is admitting that he liked the Army Men games. I appreciate your honesty, Not Cirque. But he's not alone.
But we had people, because that was a local company. The 3DO, that was 3DO, and like we had local company there, and we had people that would come in and work there, and they're like, oh yeah, like
it's keeping us alive.
Like they would literally tell, like Trip Hawkins would literally say, like, you need to make it this good and cost this much and no more. Stop trying to be clever or ambitious. Just make a thing that runs and send it out because it will sell.
Yeah.
Like they were literally churning them out
with
as little effort as they could because they knew it would sell, and that was what was keeping things afloat.
Well, this is like Army Men on HGH.
Yeah, I think Obsidian is putting a little more care and effort into this one.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. So Obsidian is making this. They just put out The Outer Worlds, which has done very well critically, and both of us liked it.
You could have called this The Inner Worlds.
That's true, though. You could have. I mean, maybe they'll rename it. Who knows?
I wonder if that might have been the original name.
It's possible.
Like,
it's definitely possible. This looks interesting to me, though. Like, I like the idea of you're this little person and, like, everything is a threat.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little Fortnite in there.
Yeah,
with the building.
It definitely gives you the Fortnite vibe. And I think when you're saying that these games don't really plug a hole, nobody else has Fortnite. So I think every publisher or platform holder is going to keep trying to solve that riddle. They're always going to look for their Fortnite.
Like, I don't think this is Battle Royale or anything, but like it's clearly sort of like what Fortnite originally was going to be.
Yeah.
Before they struck gold.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm surprised no one has made like a Lord of the Flies game yet, a Battle Royale game with kids. I mean,
you probably get a pretty hard M on that one, but
yeah, so what though? I mean, that doesn't matter. I mean, that's really what Battle Royale comes from. I mean, the first Battle Royale movie was all like tweens and teens that were killing each other. And then, of course, the whole concept was bastardized in the West by another movie franchise that we won't name. But I think it kind of changed the perspective on Battle Royale. But Battle Royale, to me, is like this. It's like young kids put in this weird situation where they're forced to survive. But, yeah, I don't think they've said anything about, like, a Battle Royale mode in this. Although they'd probably be smart to include one.
Maybe.
But this is Obsidian's game, and as you guys know, Microsoft now owns Obsidian, so this is not coming to any other platforms. It also is Xbox One and PC, and Game Pass day one. Next up, the game you could not remember the name of, Rare's new game, Everwild. I would never expect this from Rare, but
Well, because there's no googly eyes on anything. So how do you know it's rare?
Very out of Rare's wheelhouse, for sure. It's never really made a game like this. I guess the closest you could say is maybe Cameo elements
Cameo
of power.
is probably the closest, but like, I mean, just the fact that things look like real things is
unusual. If you can say that with this creature.
Yeah, but I mean, that looks like a believable thing. It doesn't look like a cartoon.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's still stylized.
It's not a coffee mug with googly eyes talking about sex.
I mean, it looks like it could be a spin-off of like Ori and the Will of the Wisp or whatever.
But it also looks like every damn indie game with like a nature theme in the last 5 years.
Here are the animals in danger. Be sad for the animals in danger. Here's the one animal that is dangerous.
Here's the majestic, dangerous one. Here's the untouched virgin forest as we... Oh, look, there's other animals. It's just like, it's... I mean, on one hand, it's cool to see Rare let loose and do something new. On the other hand, what they did seems to have been very similar to what everybody else does, so I don't know.
I'm not even sure we know what genre this game is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it could be like a... Zelda-like
could be like an open, like it seems like kind of an open area sort of action RPG thing would be.
And then it might be okay.
But what isn't these days?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'll play it. It's on Game Pass. I'll just download and play it. Like, who cares?
I agree with you though. If this is just another like wander around with the wildlife all around you game, it doesn't have any appeal. If it is like a Breath of the Wild type game, then I think it might have a little bit of a
maybe.
pull.
I mean, nobody's holding a weapon, so I don't know what this is going to be.
Well, there's a spear, right? They showed the one character with a spear.
I guess it's very Mononoke as well.
Yep, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it looks nice.
It's gorgeous. That whatever engine Rare is working with for this game,
but it ain't like
using it.
But it ain't a buy an Xbox Scarlet kind of thing either.
No, it's definitely not a killer app. Not yet. I mean, who knows? It could evolve.
Yeah, it could be more scope
like
to this than it's hinting at.
But initially, I think I agree with you. It looks. I mean, I'm glad to see Rare stepping out of his comfort zone. That's for sure.
It also just looks a little too much like Grounded.
Yeah.
Like they just have similar palettes. Basically.
Well, yeah, you confused them earlier.
Yeah.
And I can totally see why you would do that. So that is Everwild. We don't even have a vague idea when this game is coming out. My guess is like 2021.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is Rare.
Yeah, and Rare is still working on Sea of Thieves as well. I don't know how big the team is still left on that, but Rare's only 120 people I think now around there.
Maybe, I don't know. There's a story for Schreier to tackle, like
for sure.
The history, like the last 10 years of Rare.
Yeah, what has happened?
Yeah,
like the dirt on that would be very, very interesting. And I think this game looks interesting. I like the art. I like the visuals. I like the loose concept they presented. I just need to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Everwild. Next is Age of Empires 4. We just saw the first gameplay ever for this. There was a goofy cinematic trailer that they put out for it initially that really didn't share much. They finally unveiled the gameplay. We thought this was going to be at E3, and it wasn't. Yeah. Instead of the remake of Age of Empires 2 was there.
I mean, finally. This isn't a huge shock, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's a known quantity. It's Age of Empires. It's the fourth game. It's the franchise is almost 30 years old now?
Yeah.
So you know what you're getting. But nevertheless, I think it's pretty impressive to see this game running in real time. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the PC that this is running on is just otherworldly.
Well, also, like, a bunch of this is like, Total War does this all the time. But, like, it's there's a little more size. Like, you can see there's some ray tracing stuff going on in here, I think, that makes the lighting a little more special. The collapsing of all the structures is very well done. I mean, it's interesting that, Age of Empires has been around a long time, but there's only been three of them.
Yeah.
And now 4. And, like, it's like, I appreciate
Civ.
It is, but I appreciate that they don't really make another one until they have a reason to make another one. Like, they don't just churn out the same thing over and over again. There's like, okay, now the tech is advanced to the point that we can make this new wrinkle work properly, and we're going to do that because it's going to change how the game is. And they did that with 3 pretty well, and I think it looks like they're doing it with this one pretty well too. This is on a scope that the previous game just had. Had.
It's insane. Like, one of the things I did when I watched this trailer was, instead of watching the stuff that they're trying to draw your eye to, I would start looking in like a little alleyway, and there would be like a little kid like walking down the alleyway or like skipping down the alley. Like, it's pretty insane, man, what they're doing. This is supposed to come to consoles.
It probably won't look like that.
Nope.
Well, it might on the new system.
close. It'll be in the same ballpark, but that's pretty impressive what they're doing with Age of Empires 4. It may motivate me to finally upgrade my PC. I built a brand new PC when I launched Sifted, and at the time, it was a beast. Now, not so much. In like 4 or 5 years' time, my PC has gone from being a beast to wanting a faster PC, I guess is the best way to put it. So maybe stuff like this is the stuff that'll get me to upgrade.
I mean, you're closing in on 5 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's an old PC now.
Yeah, I mean, look, my GTX 1080, fine. Like, I can still play with that. I need a new CPU, basically. And probably better
You need a new whole thing.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, once you're replacing the CPU, like, oh, that motherboard doesn't really... you just got to do the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's how you end up buying a new PC.
Yep, and then that old PC will just become a work PC for Sifted. That's it, generally. Like the one sitting right here, right now. So let's see, what's next? We hit Age of Empires, Yakuza on Xbox Game Pass.
Crazy.
0, 1, and 2.
I mean, it makes some sense. I didn't predict this or anything, but it makes sense that now there's PC versions of these three.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. So yeah, Yakuza 0 and Kiwami 1 and 2, both coming to Game Pass.
Which is great, because those are the best ones.
They are.
Certainly 0 is the best in the series, I think. And it's the first one you should play, so it's a very convenient... I mean, it is all downhill from there, but it's convenient that the one you should start with is the one that's probably the best game in the series. I mean, I'm glad they're doing that. I mean, the more people...
It needs more exposure.
The more people get to play the series, the better. Yeah. So put it on everything. Put it on Switch. Who cares?
Everyone's going to play these first 3 games, though, and then they're going to get 7, and they'll be like, what? What happened? Because it's a completely different game. It's a turn-based RPG. There's a demo of that up right now, by the way, Yakuza 7, on the Japanese PlayStation stores. If any of you guys are interested in checking out the crazy changes that came to the Yakuza franchise, you can check it out for free right now. And it's very easy to create a Japanese account on your PS4. Next up, tell me why.
I still haven't even played Judgment.
Me either. I haven't either.
I'm so behind on the Yakuza stuff.
Yep. Tell me why the next game from Don't Nod.
And a big hit from the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah. It looks like Microsoft is publishing it.
Yeah, it does.
Do you think Microsoft is going to buy Don't Nod? That would be a really smart purchase.
It ain't nothing but a heartbreak, really, if they don't.
I mean, it does fill a void.
Ain't nothing but a mistake.
I never want to hear you say.
I want to buy that dev.
Yeah, I think that would be a smart purchase.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And, I mean, Don't Nod's a machine.
It would also be nice to see Don't Nod get the stability that would
Absolutely.
entail.
Yeah, and that little extra polish that they could get from working with the big team, the extra time that Microsoft would give them to finish off its games. It is a machine. It puts out so many games, and they're all at least good.
Yes.
To me, it's a no-brainer. Don't Nod. If I were any of the 3 platform holders, I would buy Don't Nod. Because you could also probably get them at a pretty good deal.
Well, especially because they can do the Life is Strange stuff. They can do the Telltale style thing better than Telltale in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And they can make something like Vampire.
Right.
You know, like that's a versatile studio that does a couple of genres that like have the potential to blow up. You know, sometimes a game like this or a game like Vampire just hits.
It does.
You don't know. And like it's again, I think that kind of thing is a gap in the Xbox library that Don't Nod would be very useful for filling both of those things.
I have a feeling this might be Microsoft dipping its toe in the water. It wants to work with Don't Nod first to see if it hits its deliverables, to see what they're like to work with, to see if their corporate culture is a fit, and maybe if this all works out very well, then they make the purchase. I would not wait too long, though, because my guess is there are a lot of other people out there that are eyeing up Don't Nod for acquisition right now.
Like, there's no downside to picking up Don't Nod if you're a major platform holder, I don't think.
I mean, what astonishes me the most is its output. It's not a big studio, and it puts out games like 2 or 3 a year.
They must have some really good producers.
Yep.
Like, the people, like, scheduling stuff and planning the milestones just really must know what they're doing.
Or they just have a system built.
Yeah.
That's a fail-safe where there are flags that go up here and there to help them get back on track. But you're right. It's pretty much unheard of.
It seems like a very well-managed studio.
Yep, for sure. I mean, at the very least, maybe you just want to headhunt the head of the studio.
Yeah.
Seriously, though. I mean, that's how business works.
But at the same time, if I were the head of that studio, I don't think I'd want to leave a studio that I had running that well. It feels like...
That's kind of how your career works, though. You got to leave... I didn't want to leave G4. I mean, when I left to go work at Game Trailers, like, I loved you guys and didn't want to leave, but it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. So sometimes you just have to do it, unfortunately, in life. Yeah. And it'd be a smart hire for sure.
Depends where they wanted to put them.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to hire me away from Don't Nod to make me like whip rare into shape, like, forget it.
Yeah.
I don't want
I wouldn't do that either.
Not trying that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it either. Next up, Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is my little like pet game. Like I've never been a huge fan of the franchise, but this game just looks so damn good. That,
I mean, the Flight Simulator is an intensely boring thing to me. I have no real interest in it. But this might be the best-looking game ever made.
I know. And so we show it every time they show it, just to show you the latest trailer, to show you how good-looking this game is and what the possibilities are.
Like, there's a few things in some of the stuff they've shown. If you told me that was an actual live-action shot,
I believe it. Absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible. And it continues to look incredible.
Look at that. That's like,
yeah.
And I mean, also remember, like, that also fits with just like, if you see an airborne vehicle in a movie in the last 10 years, 95% of the time it's CG.
Yeah, and it's probably the model from this game.
Yeah, but it's like doing like simulate. It's like why Forza looks so good. It's because simulating machines is very easy now with lighting and tech of the current day. And
all you need is a CAD file.
It's way cheaper than hiring an actual plane in a movie. So that's why you'll see that all the time. You've seen CG planes and trucks and cars like hundreds of times in movies and never known it.
Didn't know it.
And now they seem to be leveraging that same idea here, also using satellite maps of real life terrain. And it looks like that. It's not going to be interesting to play at all to me because I'm an arcade person more than a sim person. But like, wow. I would watch someone play this
for a while
that knew what they were doing.
Yeah, you know? As long as they jumped around a good bit.
Yeah, or just like, I mean, there's people that play this series and like they run their own airline.
Oh, I know.
And all that stuff.
I know. And then they start setting up like digital airports, and there's people who run the airports, and there's a virtual like flight control guy who's like calling the planes in and sending them out.
Like they wake up in the morning and send their planes off in the morning, go to work, come back, land them.
It's crazy. So they did kind of give a loose release date for this. They said it's coming in the middle of 2020. It will also be day one on Xbox Game Pass.
Crazy.
Yep, pretty crazy. And then kind of the final update was Xbox Game Pass. It has become kind of Microsoft's driving part of the Xbox business at this point. They push it hard, and they pushed it hard again at X19. 50 more games? Is that what they announced?
So I think that's
coming to Game Pass. And then there were a few highlights. The Witcher, the first Witcher, which is a little weird. Darksiders 3 and 10 Final Fantasy games are coming to Game Pass in like the immediate future.
And Kingdom Hearts.
I didn't quite understand why that was such a big deal.
Because they're not on Xbox at all.
Yeah.
It's because Kingdom Hearts 3 is the only Kingdom Hearts on Xbox.
Yeah.
So like the fact that they're getting the other collections and basically you have the full series on Xbox now.
Okay.
Like that's why it's important. I mean, it's a little Google Stadia-y, and it's just like, I think we've all played those, thank you, like 2 or 3 times each, but like, if having everything on one system is important to people, so.
Just finally.
The people who, I mean, I don't know who that is.
I don't either.
Cares about Kingdom Hearts, but has never played Kingdom Hearts and only owns an Xbox and bought Kingdom Hearts 3, but doesn't know the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a
whoever you are, email us, because I want to know what happened there, but like, it's nice to be complete, that's all.
So those were the big 3: Witcher, Darksiders 3, and the gaggle of Final Fantasy games. But all the first party stuff, day and date, on Game Pass going forward. It's all going to be there. It's becoming.
If you can't give people free games, make it feel like they're free.
Yeah, I just wonder why, if anybody buys an Xbox from here on out, why they would ever buy a game again, like a first party game.
Yeah.
There's no reason to. None.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But
I'm glad because it makes doing this show way cheaper.
It does. I mean, the math seems to be working out somehow for Microsoft. I don't know how, but I mean, it's smart. You would think it would.
Microsoft's got deep pockets.
It does.
I mean, I don't know how long they can do this.
I don't either. But just enjoy it while it lasts. And like I said,
because you can kind of like imagine a time where they decide it's time to stop like pushing that hard, and you end up in a situation like PlayStation Plus where suddenly the games suck.
Yeah,
the free games stop being of the same quality, and everybody eventually noticed and was like, "Hey, wait a minute,
what's going on?" Yeah, it's I don't know. I think Microsoft has to have it figured out. It can't just be like we're just going to give away billions of dollars a year to get people on Game Pass and then hope that they buy other stuff. Like, I don't know. To me, there's an algorithm somewhere that tells Microsoft that this is a smart thing to do. And like I said, at the end of the show, we're going to be giving away a free 3-month pass to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So make sure you stick around until the end of the show. Then the final game that they showed was Crossfire, which is a free-to-play shooter from Korea.
Yeah, I remember. So they showed this at E3.
Yeah, it's a huge game in Korea, but it doesn't even ping in the West. Mm-hmm. And so I guess Microsoft is going to put some muscle behind it to try to change that. I don't understand why. I don't know. I guess everybody wants as many free-to-play games as they can get on their platforms at this point so they can monetize them with cosmetics and things like that. Otherwise, I have no idea. They also announced a kart racing game from Korea called Kart Rider. That's also a free-to-play kart racing game that's also coming to Xbox. And it's all driven...
Stands no chance against Garfield. Furious Kart.
It's all driven by microtransactions as well. It's all about customizing your cart and your rider. And
if you haven't read the Rock, Paper, Shotgun review of that Garfield kart racer, go do that.
It is curated on Sifted right now.
It is astoundingly well done.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Putting that complete degree to work.
We need more of that. We need more reviews like that, where you're just reviewing a game that's so bad that you just decide to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Like, not enough writers do that. And then just one final thing before we move on from X19. There was a couple interviews that Phil Spencer did, and kind of the recurring theme across most of those interviews was, for next generation, we will not be out of position on power or price. Mm-hmm. So basically, Phil is laying down the gauntlet right now.
We're going to cost the same.
We're going to cost the same. This is not going to be an Xbox One repeat.
We're not going to X-Bone again.
Yep, we're not going to have the system that's underpowered compared to the PlayStation 5. It's going to be at least on parity, and it's going to cost, worst case scenario, the same as the PlayStation 5. So, two big problems from the Xbox One launch fixed. Or at least seemingly fixed. We'll see if it actually pans out that way. We're hearing all the right things from Microsoft.
Yeah, for sure.
And Microsoft's doing all the right things right now. I do think it was a little weird to show off a couple of those games now when they're going to need a big push for the next console. I think they probably could have held a couple of those and not really hurt X19 all that much.
I mean, you probably could have hung on to Everwild until you were able to show more about what it actually is.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to know that Rare is doing a thing, so who knows? And
it's not like Avatars or some goofy project that Microsoft has decided to put Rare on, which has been far too typical.
And basically their whole output.
Since they were acquired, basically. Yeah. So, there you go. That's X19. You said you hated it. Is that a D from you? Or
that's why I got C-. Like, there's a couple things. I mean, it would be lower if I was expected to buy any of it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're basically giving it all to me for the Game Pass subscription, that's pretty cool.
I'd give it an A. This was better than the last 6 E3s from Microsoft. 5.
Oh, I pretty much agree with that, but that doesn't mean it was an A.
I think it was.
I think it was.
Microsoft has not unveiled this many games at once, and probably since they unveiled the Xbox One for the first time.
Yeah, that's probably true. I just don't care about most of the ones that were
They just
unveiled.
weren't striking your fancy.
They don't interest me.
They do me, and I think it was great, and I hope that Microsoft does X20.
Like, the winners here, I mean, it's not like Wasteland 3 was a surprise or anything.
Yeah.
It's like that. Like, in terms of what was shown, like, Tell Me Why is really the only thing that, like, makes my eyebrow go up, just because it's Don't Nod, and they'll play whatever they put out. Really. Yeah. That's about it. Like, the Game Pass library is great, but it's all stuff I've already played.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, you got Final Fantasy, you got Yakuza, you got Kingdom Hearts. Like, awesome. You're expanding your Japanese, like, game output. I have them all on PlayStation. I've already played them all. So, but for someone, that's cool, especially if on Game Pass. Like, why not?
Yep. I thought they did great, and I think that Microsoft needs to keep it up. I think every event needs to be like that going forward. Microsoft cannot do any of the more E3 press conferences where they show their big 3 again: Gears, Halo, and Forza, whatever. Like,
I mean, I think we're going to get Forza whether we like it or not.
Yeah, and they'd be dumb to end the franchise, but they were living on those 3 franchises for the last, 5 years.
And 2 of those are very interchangeable for most people, so, you need... I mean, Halo and Forza is great, but I think you need a third pillar for that launch that is something new.
Yep.
Even if it's just Fable again.
Yeah.
But something that's out of the normal wheelhouse of driving and shooting.
Yeah.
It needs to be something
those
else.
games they showed are outside of that.
They are, but they're not a Halo or a Forza. They're not a wow, look what this system can do. They're not like, oh my god, I can't wait to like dive into that. Like you need something that is you need something that's a Skyrim, basically. Mm-hmm. And maybe you can turn Fable into that, maybe you can't. But whatever Playground Games is working on, like the non-Horizon thing they're working on, you need it. Like whatever that is, I think that has to be the third pillar.
Okay. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Death Stranding. And you guys saw it in the graphic. You're like, oh, they finished it, and they're gonna talk about like their experiences if it changed. I'm not gonna talk about that because I have not picked the game up since last week's episode.
Neither have I. Because here's the thing. On the way home from here last week, I found out that the local store got Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh.
So I turned around and went and got it, and I had no reason to play Death Stranding again.
I have no reason really to play it again, period.
I mean, I will probably go back and finish it, like, now that I'm done with Jedi and once I'm through more Pokemon. But, like, yeah, Death Stranding had no chance.
I am eyeing up Death Stranding for when I get back from the holidays on, like, January 2nd or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's that weird dead zone, that New Year's dead zone where, like, everything's waiting to ramp up. You're waiting for people to get back from the holidays. I'll probably dive in and try to finish it then.
Yeah, that's a good place to put. But, I mean, I am frankly going to try to finish it before the Game Awards because when it wins everything, I want to be ready to argue about it.
Yeah, so the Game Award nominations came out today, and they should probably just be called the Death Stranding Awards.
Yeah.
That does not make for a
I mean, it didn't get nominated for Best Esports Coach, so that's an upset.
Kojima wasn't nominated for Best Esports Coach? I mean, come on. That was the most obvious award for this game. So you're probably wondering, well, then why the hell are you guys going to talk about it? The reason we're going to talk about it is because Kojima came out, and once the reviews started coming out and some of the user scores started coming out, Kojima lashed out and said that the game is divisive and not as popular as you might think because Americans just like to shoot shit. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that, Matt?
If that's what you tell yourself to sleep at night, okay.
Yeah.
But give me a break.
Yeah. That was a pretty low blow, if you ask me.
It's like, is that why Spider-Man sold 10 million copies?
Yeah, how many guns does he
15 million
use?
copies?
Yeah, I don't remember him using a gun.
Is that why Pokemon's going to sell? Is the third biggest launch of the year? I mean, it's like, come on. Like, tons of non-shooters sell here and review well here. It's like, you made a delivery boy sim.
Some people don't like it.
Some people aren't cool with that. And you had to know that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's no way you make this game and don't like automatically know this isn't for everyone.
He said before like the reviews came out and he got the response, he said that I think some people won't find the game fun.
Yeah.
He went on the record saying that before it came out.
I mean,
he said I'm worried that some people may not find the game fun.
Okay, well, props for self-awareness.
Yeah, but then it just disappeared in a week's time.
But that is not, I mean,
It's
I mean, then why did Mario Odyssey review so well?
Yeah. It's always interesting watching a luminary deal with a less than favorable response. Mm-hmm. They all do it differently, and you can't predict how they're going to react. And Kojima's reaction was defensive.
Yeah, I mean, look, it could be argued that like Western audiences prefer action.
Yeah,
and
there's not much in this.
Part of the gameplay loop of Death Stranding is that if you do everything right, there is no action.
That's true.
Like, if action happens, you screwed up.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I found it offensive, in all honesty, that Kojima would say that about American
I don't know if I'd say it's
consumers.
offensive, but it's just silly. It smacks of like desperation to
me.
I
think it smacks of what Japanese developers believe about American players.
That's probably true, yeah.
And that's what bothers me the most, is even after all this time, they still think we're they still think we're a bunch of meatheads. Like,
yeah. I mean, they're not wrong in some ways, but I think...
I mean, they see Call of Duty as the best-selling game.
Sure.
And they're like, oh, that's what they like. They don't look at the 9 best-selling games.
Right, but it's also just like... That's not your... If you ever thought that was your audience for this game, you're out of your mind. Like, and he knows that. He knows that the people that make Call of Duty a huge seller are not the people buying Metal Gear. Like, he knows that.
Yep.
It's just like trying to find a reason to explain, and who knows what the reactions behind the closed doors are about the sales. It seems like it sold well, but who knows how much this costs?
I don't know. I was at Best Buy on launch day, and they had probably, I'm not even exaggerating, like 400 of them.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't undersold.
And nobody there buying them.
Yeah, but people are saying, oh, it's the second biggest IP or whatever. Like, how many new IPs have there been this gen?
Wait, they're saying it's the second biggest new IP in this gen?
Second biggest launch of a new IP in Japan.
See, this is the spin, though.
Yeah,
this is what I'm talking about.
The number one is Days Gone.
Right.
And and then okay, what are the other new IPs? Name me some.
Yeah.
I can't think of any.
It's like you can use data and manipulate it in however you want to make your case, and that's what they're doing.
But when you're thinking about other new IPs, even this year, it's like, okay, what? So it's sold better than Greedfall? Like,
right.
Who gives a shit?
It's like saying it's the best-selling Hideo Kojima game of 2019. Like, it holds zero. Seriously, though. Like, it holds no weight. Like, but it fools some people into believing, hey, maybe things didn't go as bad as we thought that they did.
Suck it, Vampire. You didn't sell as well as Death Stranding. It's like once you get in a new IP, you're just talking about games that never were ever expected to sell what a Kojima game
that had like a marketing budget of literally like $20,000.
Yeah, and in the end, Days Gone sold pretty well for what it was.
Yeah.
But I don't think they spent the money on Days Gone that they spent on Death Stranding.
No, not in development or in marketing.
No.
Death Stranding commercials were all over football on Sunday. You never saw, I've ever saw a Days Gone commercial.
Yeah. So it sold better than Horizon Zero Dawn.
It did?
Well, Horizon Zero Dawn's a new IP.
So it's, from this whole generation.
If it was number 2 of the generation in Japan, it sold better than Horizon did.
Oh, in Japan.
That was the number I saw.
Okay, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Japan. All right. That makes a lot more sense. I'm surprised it's not the number 1 IP in Japan. Like, Days Gone outsold it.
No, Days Gone was huge in Japan, and no one really seems to know why. But no, that was a story at the time. The Days Gone launched hugely strong in Japan.
Yeah. Zakali is seldom. Americans are not woke enough. What does that mean?
I don't know.
So
I don't see a lot of wokeness in Death Stranding.
I see
really.
zero wokeness. I see slumber in Death Stranding. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I hate that. Like, that's what I hate about what Kojima's doing. He's basically saying, y'all are a bunch of idiots, and that's why you don't like my game. And that's exactly what this guy's saying. Y'all, I'm the smart one. The rest of y'all, who don't like Death Stranding.
I think he's joking.
Is he? I don't know.
Yeah, he just said it was a joke.
Oh, it was a joke. Okay.
Yeah, he's being sarcastic.
Okay. Sarcasm does not translate well on the internet.
No, not tremendous, but I would hope that anyone who said that in reference to Death Stranding was kidding, because
they're not. There's a lot of people that are not.
I'm sure some of them are not, but they're also probably not watching this show because we would have chased them off by now.
I'm sure you saw the comments on our episode from last week. Were you not surprised at how many people were commenting that they love Death Stranding? I was like, really?
Yeah. I expect there's a cadre of people, especially that post, especially online, a lot, that love Kojima and are going to love anything he does. Like, doesn't matter.
It's crazy. I can't.
These are the same
I've never even liked that with Miyamoto.
These are the same people who thought that the story in Metal Gear Solid 5 was finished.
Right.
So, it's a cult to some degree. So,
by the way, one of the fantasy teams in our fantasy football league is called Cult of Kojima.
Mm-hmm.
He's competing for the bye with Matt Kyle Rocks.
Yeah.
Actually, we should do an update on our Sifted Fantasy Football League here soon, because there's only 2 weeks left of the regular season. So next week I'll give you guys an update on what's going on over there. I'm still alive for the playoffs, if that matters. But anyway, I hate these types of reactions from anybody, not just a game developer or whatever. I hate any time when something doesn't succeed the way that they expected or isn't received the way that they expected, they start trying to blame other people.
Well, Todd Phillips did the same thing when the reactions to Joker started.
It's human nature, and I'll say this, like when Sifted...
I will say this, at least what Kojima's talking about is in his game.
It's true.
And what Todd Phillips claimed the reason he made the Joker movie, that's not in the Joker movie. Yeah. It's a complete opposite. So
I'll say this, it is human nature. So when Sifted launched and it wasn't immediately a sensation, like my first instinct was these people just don't know what they're missing. They don't know what they're doing. But I've consciously recognized that and fought that, because it doesn't do you any good. To say people aren't getting it, that's not going to help the product. So it's something that I've had to consciously focus on not doing, blaming other people, other things, and just focus on me and the product. And so I can understand why the knee-jerk reaction of a lot of people is, oh, it's them. They're dumb. They don't understand it. Mm-hmm. But that's not the way to approach it.
No, but that is the standard way to dismiss criticism now of, especially if something is weird or unorthodox enough to sort of obscure the idea that it's just not interesting. You see that with movies a lot too. So it's the hot new thing to like be like, oh, if you don't like this, it's not because you don't like it, it's because you don't get it. You don't understand what they're trying to do. And like a lot of times people try to pull that with some of the most shallow nonsense. I mean, people are trying to pull that with Batman versus Superman too. And I'm just like, I got it. It's just
There's
dumb.
nothing to get.
It's, like, I understood what I watched. It's just I think what I watched was really bad.
Yeah.
And like same with, I understand what Death Stranding is doing and because I mean, you don't have a choice. They explain everything constantly to you. But like, I don't care. Like, it didn't do anything to make me care. Like, and they're trying really hard on that baby, the BB, to like make you care about that. I'm like, you know what? One shot in The Mandalorian made me care more about a cute thing than 40 hours of playing this.
Yeah.
So maybe be a better director, Kojima. That might help.
Or maybe make a game that's fun
maybe
to play.
That does too. But he doesn't care about the gameplay, I don't think. But he wants to be a film director, and it's like, well, maybe if your film directing icon was better than John frickin' Carpenter,
yeah, you might have a chance.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't like those movies, and The Thing is one of the greatest horror movies ever made, but like, aim higher than Escape from New York, for God's sake, if you want to make something meaningful to somebody.
Well, he is Japanese, and there is a language barrier.
Yeah, he speaks English pretty well, I think.
He should speak it better than he does. I'll put it to you that way.
Maybe.
For the person that he is and the position that he's in, he should speak better English. But
I mean, he clearly understands.
Who am I? I don't speak Japanese.
He clearly understands it.
Yeah.
I mean,
he understands everything you say. He just can't verbalize everything he wants.
Which is better than I can do.
I don't speak Japanese at all. But I'm also not an international game developer who is interviewed by Japanese-speaking press like 5 times a week. Yeah. So there's a difference.
But I would love to know some honest reactions of things from like Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro, and like how much they understood what they were doing while they were doing it in this game. Kind of thing is how much of it was just like, trust me, just do it. Do it. It'll make sense when it's done, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I think Del Toro is no stranger to doing that to actors too. It's like, look, I know what I'm doing. Just do this. I'm telling you to do this. Just do it. So,
trust me.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I think we'll probably discuss this game again in January. Because it'll be slow the first couple of weeks of the year, and we probably will have both finished it by then, and then maybe we can do like a retcon on it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're done.
For now.
Our commentary on Death Stranding is stranded at this point. So, all right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about something that many people wondered if it would ever happen. And we got rumors about it over the last couple of days, and then yesterday, Valve confirmed it. There is a brand new Half-Life game that's coming in the next, year. Here's the catch. It's a VR game.
Called it.
Yeah, you did call it.
I said Half-Life 3, but new Half-Life content exclusive to VR. That's your last, basically ace in the hole.
Hey, that's Half-Life 3 to me, bro. It's like, I don't know if we're ever going to get a real Half-Life 3, so I'm just going to take what I can get.
Probably not. No.
I mean, to be honest with you. So there is a single-player, linear VR game called Half-Life Alyx that is going to debut on Thursday. The first trailer will be out. Is it exclusive to Valve's VR HMD?
Seems like it.
That's interesting.
I mean, I don't know how you enforce that. I mean, even Oculus stuff is not exclusive.
Yeah,
there's ways to make it. There's ways to bridge that gap.
Yeah, everything's been kind of jailbroken at this point. But are you disappointed, though?
No. I mean, I don't really care.
I mean, is it going to work on your Vive?
It might. I'll probably never know. Am I going to dig that out for that? No.
You're not excited enough to play a new Half-Life that you'll dig out your Vive.
I've lived my life for 15 years without Half-Life. I'm fine. It's over. It's over. Half-Life's over. It's done.
It's not, though.
It is.
On Thursday. It's coming back.
No, it's just prequel. It's a bullshit prequel.
Is it a prequel? I thought it was in between the two games.
Yeah, it's a prequel to Half-Life 2. It takes place between 1 and 2.
Right.
Solo is also a prequel. It takes place between the trilogies. Like, I don't care about prequels. I don't care about backstories. You give me Half-Life 3, I'll dig the vibe out. But until then, go away.
What if this is great, though?
Then maybe I will, but I'll let other people find that out for me.
And this, I mean, you're striking at the core of the lower third, which is not like that.
Yeah.
Like, we want a new Half-Life, but not like that. Like, we just want... And Mike, don't you think that they'll make it playable in 2D?
It would be dumb.
Why?
Because they want you to buy their headset.
I get that.
That's why this exists.
I get that, but...
Maybe like 2 years later.
Really? You think that long?
Yeah.
I think like 6 months after when they realize and the sales are done and they're like, we sold like 200,000 of this, they're going to make it 2D.
Later
than that.
At least a year.
I mean, it is Valve, so yeah.
They don't need the money. They're making money hand over fist all the time. They're not like this.
Yeah, they're not like, red. We lost money on this and we need to make it up.
They can sit on that shit for as long as they want, forever if they want.
You're right. It'll probably be at least a year. But, I mean, that still doesn't make it worth spending like $600 on a VR helmet, like, or more. How much is Valve's new helmet?
I think it's like 600, 700. I haven't looked.
At least recently. They've come down from like the 800, 900 mark.
Yeah, I mean, if you want the one that comes with all the extra lighthouse sensors and all, I mean, it's 1,000. I think. Yeah, but like, there's multiple.
If you have
packages.
Like your Vive stuff, like, will those?
Yeah, if I was gonna buy it and like use my old sensors, I think it's like 700 for the new setup.
Still a lot. That's still too much to pay to play a new Half-Life game.
Sure, I mean, maybe not Half-Life 3, a full-fledged Half-Life 3, but this.
I mean, I'm going to hold until I see the trailer on Thursday to try to figure out if it actually is a full game or if it's another one of these VR quote-unquote experiences.
I mean,
where
you can borrow my Vive if you want it. Like, but I don't really have any interest in setting all that up for a Half-Life prequel side story. Like, it's... I
have to say, I am really surprised you're not more excited for this.
Who cares about Half-Life anymore?
I do.
It's over.
I definitely care.
It's over. It was 2004, for God's sake. I don't care about anything that happened in 2004 anymore. Like, it's like Valve has decided that this series is done, and so it's done.
But it's not. They're making a new one.
Who cares? It's not a new one. It's a prequel. It's a cash-in as an attempt to make you... It's an attempt to leverage an IP that everybody liked back in the day to make them buy an overpriced headset. It is not some kind of legitimate follow-up. I don't care. I'll pay attention to it. I'll look at it.
What happens if it comes out on the trailer comes out and it's like the hotness?
It won't be.
You're awful confident in that. Is it Valve that... I mean, it sounds like the problem you have is maybe you don't believe Valve can still make a good game.
I mean, that's part of it. It's also part of it is like Half-Life's done. Half-Life was over. Like they decided to stop making Half-Life games, so they did. If they want to cynically bring it back in an attempt to sell this new hardware, like, okay, but I'm not buying it. I mean, not in the sense that I'm not paying money, but I mean, I'm not believing that this was a Half-Life story we felt we had to tell.
No, I don't believe that either.
No,
but that doesn't matter to me. I don't care about any of that. All I care about is if the game is good or bad, and it's set in the Half-Life universe. The rest of that stuff does not matter to me. I don't care.
Well,
this franchise could be gone for 50 years, and Gaben could have said, I hate Half-Life. I've always hated it. And I still wouldn't care if they were putting out a new one. Like, I don't understand why that has any weight for you.
Because it requires me to drag this whole thing out and reset up this whole headset thing that's been in a box for 2.5 years, or buy another one for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and I'm not doing that for anything.
Now, I understand that too, but my question was your stance on Half-Life. Like, it's just over. Like, and nothing they can do can change your mind on it. Like, I don't get that.
There's one thing they could do to change my mind. It would have been to make Half-Life 3 about 10 years ago.
But
like, that's it.
So what if, like, this comes out and they're like, oh, yeah, we're working on Half-Life 3. Will you care then?
If it comes out and I can play it without a VR headset, sure.
Okay. I'm confused.
Like, I don't care about some, like, side story prequel bullshit. I don't give a shit what Alyx did between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. I don't care how the Combine took over between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. But why do you
care about that with other IPs but not Half-Life?
Generally, I don't.
I mean, you care about the Star Wars prequels?
No, I don't. I don't like the Star Wars prequel trilogy very much. I think Solo was boring as all hell, and the only reason I like Rogue One is because they cut a Star Destroyer in half with another Star Destroyer.
Yeah, but you went to see him.
Yeah.
And you weren't down on him before you went to see him.
I mean, I was down on Solo. Like, Solo's a dumb idea. Solo was always a dumb idea. And I forgot that Solo was coming out the day it came out.
Yeah, I think everyone
Even though I already had tickets for it.
If you look at the numbers, you'll see
If Jason Chung hadn't said something to me that morning, I would have forgotten to go to the movie that night. But like, I mean, also, I just had to drive to a movie theater. I didn't have to like reset up my computer room to play a VR headset again. Like,
I understand all that. I don't understand why you're cutting off Half-Life from your life.
Because I don't care about this prequel that like is just like a punt. Like it's not what anybody wanted. Like you said, not like that. Like that's not what I want. And like, I am more irritated. Yes, like at least the Star Wars prequels that they're making, the Star Wars prequel trilogy was what was always going to be made, and the Solo and Rogue One prequels, like they're disposable, but at least they aren't in place of what everybody's been wanting.
Yeah,
you know, like they're like some kind of like Half-Life measure. I don't know. That
should have been the lower third.
Use that for the next lower third when we talk about this again. It's just, it doesn't interest me. It doesn't excite me.
Because we will talk about this next week. Because now we will have seen it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, to be fair, Valve made one of the best VR things in the lab. I mean, the lab's one of the best VR things, but it's just like, there's just such a cynicism to this and such a like, hey, we know nobody wants this, but Half-Life, it's like, no, not buying it.
I understand that. I get that.
Bleh.
I'm not going to cut myself off from Half-Life forever, though, because...
I mean, if they do, in fact, release it without the headset, like you can play it without a headset, sure, I'd play it then.
Okay.
Like, but I'm not going to, like, rearrange a room to play this damn thing just because they decided this is their way to strong-arm people into buying a VR headset.
Okay. All right, we're going to cut that off there because, like I said, we are going to be talking about that next week because they're going to show it on Thursday. Keep your browser tuned to sifted.net. We will have it as soon as it breaks. It will be up on the site. And now it's time for the grand finale of episode 191.
Another prequel.
Which is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I have not finished the game. Mm-hmm. It seems that I've unlocked all the locations in the game, but I've not finished it yet.
Yeah, I think you've seen all the planets.
Yeah.
Well, no, you haven't. You haven't seen one. I guarantee.
Okay, so I have one planet left to discover. Now you go back. Again, the lower third for this Dark God of Metroid. After playing, I've spent almost 20 hours. No less than that. Probably like 15, something like that. Playing it so far, and I would say it is a mashup in almost equal share of Dark Souls, God of War, and Metroid.
Yeah, I mean, I would compare it more to Assassin's Creed because I think they're both it and God of War are kind of borrowing from Assassin's Creed in terms of traversal more than each other. But one way or the other, it definitely wants to be an experience like God of War. Like that's what they're aiming for is like a Sony AAA cinematic experience game.
The problem is God of War, the franchise moved on. This is based on the old God of Wars.
There is a lot of old God of War in it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Stig. It's the guy who made God of War 3, so that makes sense.
My biggest shock of playing this game is how much traversal there is. So
yeah, they took the Metroid thing very...
Platforming,
I remember people being a little skeptical when they mentioned Metroid as a influence at E3, and like, no, absolutely.
Well, I think that's what makes it like God of War, though. Like the platforming, the wall climbing, looks almost identical to God of War.
See, here's the thing: I don't agree with that. I played it, and God of War never entered my head nearly as much early on as God of War entered my head in terms of what they're trying to do in terms of storytelling production value. But the traversal is Assassin's Creed. Like, that's what they're taking that from.
No. Go back and watch an old God of War game. It's literally like frame for frame God of War. The same angle when he climbs the wall. It's exactly the same. It is. I mean, I wish we had some queued up.
I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I never thought about that.
It's the same exact angle. All of it's the same. The walking on the beams, it's all God of War.
Well, how else do you angle that? I mean, but
you just don't do it. Metroid has none of that.
Metroid has none of that, but God of War does and Assassin's Creed does.
Metroid's influence in this game is the get a power, make your way out of the level, get another power, come back to the levels you've already been to. The level design... But
it's also the traversal in the sense that
and the scanning.
Like, you get the ability. The scanning wasn't as robust as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah. Because there aren't as many enemies as I thought there would be.
No, they focus more on like an enemy that like more versatile enemy types that can be like kind of tweaked as you move through it.
Yeah.
As opposed to
which it's Star Wars. It makes sense. You have stormtroopers. Like that's the way it is.
There's a bunch of different trooper types and various.
But all you scan is like every time you kill an enemy type for the first time, then you
or
scan
like
it.
BD1 sees things in the environment. And they give you like kind of background
little clues
stuff
or whatever. Yeah,
it's a little snippet of experience. It's worth doing, but
it's
not. It's not like a No Man's Sky level kind of thing.
But this game was way more like God of War than I thought.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know if there's that much of a distinction. But Assassin's Creed with the beam balancing and the wall climbing was Assassin's Creed to me.
God of War was doing that before Assassin's Creed.
Was it? I mean, not like
it
this.
absolutely was. Yeah,
I mean, not like with this. I mean,
the first God of War has tons of this.
Oh,
crap.
sure, but like it was the character's much smaller.
No.
I never thought of the old God of War.
Go back and watch some footage.
I mean,
of God
I know
of
what
War.
you're talking about when you say that, but I
this
just don't.
This is identical to it.
But it's not. I mean,
how is it different?
How is it
How
not?
is it different?
Because it's closer and the character's larger and you're more brought into what's happening. It's the Assassin's Creed camera angle.
No.
Yes.
It's not.
Because
you can move the camera.
Kratos is
Assassin's Creed.
Is tiny in God of War.
No. You can move the camera in Assassin's Creed. You cannot move the camera when you're doing this stuff in this game.
I mean, you can move the camera, but why would you? Because you're just going to screw up because Assassin's Creed doesn't know where you want to go.
I'm right on this one, Matt. It's totally God of War. It's Stig. Why would he copy Assassin's Creed when he can copy his own game?
Well, because it's kind of a universal thing now. I mean, you could also. I mean, there's
because he started it in God of War.
I'm not willing to give God of War credit for what Assassin's Creed did. It's not. Like, I mean...
No, I'm not. I'm giving it credit for what this game is doing.
But I think it takes lessons from Assassin's Creed in a way that just the old God of Wars didn't have. I mean, I could see it if you're comparing to the previous God of War, because there is more... I think there's more of an element to that. Like, he's doing all the same things in that. But Assassin's Creed was what I thought of the whole time I was doing the climbing traversal in this.
I didn't at all. It was God of War the whole time. Regardless, it does share almost equal elements of those three franchises.
I mean, the thing I see people comparing it to mostly is Uncharted, which I think is
that's also
really,
an apt
it's
comparison.
There, but I don't think it's there as much as I think the God of War and the Assassin's Creed comparisons are more accurate than calling it Uncharted because Uncharted's got a little more loose to it. Uncharted's a little messier on purpose.
Maybe the overall design of the game is closer to Uncharted because you have
in a sense you got the red paint shows you where to go and that kind of thing.
And then you have you do a bunch of action, then you have a big cut scene.
Structurally it is similar.
It's a little more like
but God of War and Assassin's Creed also do that.
They do.
So,
yeah. But
it's really just modern action game.
It kind of is.
So
it's kind of a derivative hey, here's all the cool stuff from the modern action game and we're going to kind of figure out a way to make it work.
That's how Star Wars games have always worked. It's just like we're gonna. What's popular right now? Okay, make a Star Wars one. That was the old LucasArts philosophy, and it worked just fine.
But this game does not feel like it's a new game.
No,
it feels like it was kind of a game from maybe last generation that never released, and then they rebuild it with 4K textures.
I don't know about that. This game doesn't exist
without
Dark Souls and that whole series existing, and it doesn't exist without Sekiro.
Well, Demon Souls was last gen.
Yeah, but Demon Souls didn't play like this, and this takes lessons from Sekiro, and I don't mean that they redid the game since Sekiro came out, but I promise you, Stig and the Respawn guys knew what Sekiro was doing before we knew what Sekiro was doing.
Yeah,
all those guys know internal stuff. They're in the industry. They all know this stuff. And there's definitely influence there. So the combat, which is the best part of the game, is definitely something that only could have happened now. Everything else is something that's pretty much been in place since the early Assassin's Creeds or the early Uncharted's, which is fine. It doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. It's the first damn Star Wars game that isn't Battlefront for 15 years or something. That wasn't some kind of unmitigated disaster
or a mobile game.
I mean, I would say this is the best Star Wars game since KOTOR 2, which was 2005, I think. But it's still the thing is I was really kind of hoping, and it says more about the year than about the game. That I was kind of hoping this would be one of my Game of the Year candidates, and I don't think it is. I think it's good, not great, and the reason it's good, not great, is because all the elements to be that AAA kind of Sony-style cinematic experience like Spider-Man or God of War, which it desperately wants to be, they're all there, but the polish just isn't there. Yeah, it's rough around every edge.
The biggest surprise to me, other than the fact that it feels a little older than I thought it was going to, is that.
It's just I don't think there's an element of the game that I haven't had a moment where I'm just like, oh, I wish that worked a little better. Or
it's weird that it's a Respawn game, and it is. And I haven't had any game breaking.
No,
bugs.
it has. It's not broken. It's not like, oh, that doesn't work, or oh, I hate this, or it doesn't. It's just tweaks. It's just endless things I think needed tweaking or needed 6 more months in the oven kind of thing.
It's just not crazy polished.
Yeah.
Like the hitboxes aren't quite right. Like even on some of the terrain, like I've slipped and fallen off of a ledge when I shouldn't have slipped and fallen off a ledge.
And there's like moments where I feel like it doesn't quite direct you the way I think they intend to direct you, and I got confused what to do. In a way that isn't, I think, intended in the way that the exploration wants to confuse you. There's like sort of a different feel to some of those moments. It's sort of like, you know, like for as much as I don't think Death Stranding is interesting, Death Stranding's level of just integrity and polish on its kind of technical side is just unimpeachable.
It's razor sharp.
And this is much mushier in that regard. Like, you know, as good as the combat is, like the hitboxes are not Dark Souls level quality. As good as the way the parrying and stuff works, it's still a little mushy once you get into the really hard stuff later on, and you're trying to fight like the faster purge troopers or the bosses and stuff. Once you first go up against some of the big monsters that sort of break kind of the 1-to-1 combat stuff, some of the dodging is a little messier than it probably should be because you can't quite rely on what you need to do to dodge this or that.
Also, the tells
a lot of the tells are very similar
hard to read.
Well, because they lead into very similar moves, which is
it's also like a blob that just lunges.
Right.
Like it's
and you learn it, but it's like there's also not a lot of great feedback in terms of like if you're in a big back and forth like saber flurry, you're not always getting the correct feedback that you're getting hit. And I've never had that problem in like a Souls game. Like I always know when I'm getting hurt in a Souls game, and sometimes I'd look down at the life bar on this game and be like, "Holy crap!
I'm almost
dead."
Happen? Yeah, like, no, I agree. Yeah.
So it's little things like that. The game is super cool. Like it's the best lightsaber combat of all time. I would argue, hot take, it's the only good lightsaber combat ever done.
I mean, I would argue this is the best Star Wars action game ever made.
I mean, I guess
in this genre,
in terms of a third-person action game, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think it's better than the KOTORs. I don't think it's better than X-Wing and TIE Fighter, but that's about it.
Yeah. Sadly, the history of Star Wars video games is not illustrious.
There's a little bit of damning with faint praise when I say it, but like I mean, there is some really cool stuff in here.
Oh,
they go to some,
deflecting the blasters feels so.
All the
good.
The lightsabers have never felt more deadly. They feel like dangerous, like deadly weapons when you light them up and all that. When you deflect the blaster bolts, it feels like you're deflecting something that would have killed you, even though it wouldn't, because you can take several hits.
Yeah.
But when you deflect that thing and you kill a stormtrooper when you deflect it, it feels like in the movies where it feels like you're deflecting a very solid projectile, not just like a little light blast thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes to the sound. Like, I mean, the animation's
and the rumble in the controller.
The animation's very well done, but the sound in this game is some next level shit. Like, the sound is the best, some of the best stuff in it. And Star Wars games are always good with sound.
Yeah.
Sound is very well done.
Because they give up the libraries for the games.
Part of that, but also whoever did the sound on this is making it his or her own. I don't know who the sound director was on this or sound editor, but like, there's a bunch of different lightsaber color crystals, like color, and like in the modern canon, the color crystal kind of determines like the frequency of the blade and how. There's like 8, I think, color crystals in this game, 8 or 9,
right. Yeah.
And like they all have different sound sets.
Yeah,
like they're like you light up the orange one, and it sounds different than the cyan one or the purple one. It's really well done. Like there's tons of, and like the footsteps are great. It's. Like they bring this.
It's also a gorgeous freaking game, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
again, they cheat because these aren't open worlds; they all load in and whatnot. But whatever, it looks gorgeous.
Really good. I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty good. I think it didn't blow me away visually, but I did like seeing like the visual representations of some of these planets that are something like Dathomir and Kashyyyk are established in the lore already, but it was really cool to see them done justice in a 3D game for the first time ever. Really, I mean, it's cool. Like, it really works, and
it's here's another thing I would say. I think when you bring up Dark Souls, people get scared away.
Oh, it's so much easier than any Souls game. It's
so much easier.
It's much more forgiving. The checkpointing is constant. It's not as I mean, stamina is a thing, but the stamina is more for the defense only. It's not like swinging the lightsaber doesn't use up stamina, so you can attack as much as you want. You're never gonna like be unable to counterattack because you've spent too much time blocking.
Yeah, I've never gotten in a position where my character is just dead.
Right.
It's like I can't move, and now he's literally dead.
It's not as demanding. I mean, so there's 4 difficulties in this. There's Story, Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, and Jedi
Impossible.
Yeah, Jedi Champion or something like that. Master, I would say, is about the difficulty of your average Souls game.
So the next one up from the one you start, the default.
Yeah, so hard, basically.
Yeah.
Jedi Knight is entirely well-balanced for probably your average player that knows their way around action games. Jedi Master, if you're a Dark Souls veteran, I would say you're fine on Jedi Master.
Yeah. And then there's the story mode difficulty.
And story mode is for people that just have never played a game like this before and maybe don't know. Yeah, because even on Jedi Knight, like you die in like 5 hits from a decent enemy.
Yeah.
That life bar can whittle away real fast, and so like the difference is mainly that like in Jedi Master difficulty, something that kills you in 5 or 6 hits on Knight will kill you in 3.
Right.
And the timing for the parry windows is smaller.
And the save points are very frequent.
Very generous, very frequent. And when you die, so this is also a big difference. The usual Souls thing is when you die, you drop all your you drop your souls, you drop your XP, and you have to go pick it up again. Or in Bloodborne, you have to go kill the guy that killed you or was near you when you died, and he'll glow, and he'll be the one that you got to kill to get your stuff back. So in this game, when you die, the thing that killed you will glow, but to get all your stuff back, all you have to do is hit it
once.
You don't have to kill it. You just have to damage it.
And when you damage it also like refills your health.
It gives all your force and health back.
Yeah.
So like it's actually like very forgiving. I mean, at least on normal, that's how it works. I don't know about how I didn't play it. I played it briefly on Master and realized I could do this on Master, but if I want to get through the game before next week's show, I should just play on normal and get through it. I will probably play it again on Master or Champion, or whatever the high difficulty is, just to see how that works out. But
I would say this:
if you want to make this game hard, you can. Like it's
sure.
not shying away from that if you go into the higher difficulties.
I'll say this though: like my friends back in Central Pennsylvania, who I grew up with, who play 3 games a year or whatever, but they love Star Wars.
Jedi Grandmaster.
Yeah, but they love Star Wars. Like when I go home for Christmas, they're going to ask me, should they buy this game? I'm going to tell them yes, they should buy it, but I'm also going to tell them that they should play it on the story mode difficulty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they could start on Jedi Knight, and you can change the difficulty whenever you want.
On the fly,
so.
Yeah. But I think if they started on Jedi Knight, they wouldn't make it very far before they quit playing the game. You got to realize these are really casual players.
I mean, it is
who
a lot
probably don't even use block in any games they play.
Well, they're going to have to learn that because you can't live through this game without blocking.
On story difficulty, you might be able to.
Maybe. But I think you're missing some of the fun on that.
Oh, yeah. But see, they don't care. They just want to wield a lightsaber, see some cool Jedi stuff, fight the Empire.
Well, so do I, but like part of that is blocking.
They don't care
like
about that.
Deflecting blaster bolts.
There's a lot of people who look that way or think about it that they'll master blocking like the bullets or whatever. But as far as like mano a mano combat, they're not gonna master like the parries. They're gonna whack the attack until the other character's dead. Like that's how they play video games. And so I would recommend that they play it on the story difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, it's harder earlier.
It is.
Like early on, it's harder. Like once you get all your moves together, once you have more options, like it's fine. But I don't know. Like I feel like you're still gonna need to block in story mode.
It depends on how much damage. I mean, it all comes down to damage. How much damage do they take every time they hit you? Any other criticisms you have?
Well, I do have the clip I captured.
Oh, yeah. So we talked about how the game is buggy. Yeah. I said that I haven't really had any bugs. Like, I've fallen through a floor here and there. I've died when I shouldn't have died here and there. But I haven't had any crazy bugs.
Yeah, there's a couple, like, like, I feel like I grabbed that thing, but I didn't. Like,
yeah,
it's just
like
little things.
Other people have said they've had crazy bugs. And, Matt, you actually came across a bug.
I ran into one that I was like, I got to capture that. So I went and did the Xbox game capture thing. And
we brought it in for you guys to watch.
Because it actually made me go, whoa, like, out loud when I saw it. Like, you don't get a verbal reaction out of me from a bug very often. But this one did.
Yep, so we're going to play it for you. There is audio. Be patient. It's only a minute long.
Yeah, so this is one of the elite enemies. So there's named elite versions of some of the creatures that you have to like fight. And once you defeat them, you either get access to a new pathway, or you get like a treasure they were guarding that usually is something something worth getting, because usually something like one of the items that boosts your force or boosts your life. So I killed this thing, and then I got to open the door that he died in front of, and that's when things go a little wrong.
Yep. So hashtag.
Whoops.
Wait for it.
Hello.
Oh my god.
So not anything that interfered with playing the game, but wow.
You're lucky that door opened though.
Well, I had to open how wouldn't it open? The thing's made of Jello.
I have never seen a glitch like that in my life.
That's pretty great.
And I have played video games a long time. I've never seen a glitch like that.
I mean, that is like some Unreal Engine model fuckery, basically.
There's something going on there, but I've had nothing like that. Yeah.
But even that, I mean, that's cosmetic. Like it didn't break the game. It didn't stop my progress. I didn't have to reload it or anything. It was just like whoa, I gotta one of the few times I'm like, okay, I gotta bring that in because like that's pretty cool. I was not able to repeat that, but
that's good. Did you try to?
A couple times. It seems they have to something big enough to block the door has to die in front of a force pushable door, and like I assume that would be how. But it's very hard to replicate that because you can't really control where he dies.
Yeah. I took a bunch of notes. I'm just gonna run through. So some graphical issues. I don't know if you noticed or not, but when you have like on-the-fly conversations, there's no facial animation. Do you notice that?
Oh yeah, I've noticed it sometimes when he's talking, but I thought, he's just thinking. But like, is it when he's also on the comms?
Yep. They did not animate his face, which is
expected you to be facing away from the camera.
I mean, most of I barely caught it, to be honest with you. Like, I just caught a glimpse of the side of his face, and his face wasn't moving while he was talking. And then I ended up looking for it then, and ended up seeing it the whole rest of the game. So they cut a corner there. Most modern games do that. Like, even if you don't think you'll ever see their face is still animated. This game does not have that. Also, I don't know if like everywhere they go is windy, but like the hair is always moving in a very weird way. Like not natural at all. Like it almost seems like they did video game hair in the way that they used to do it.
It does feel like a slightly old hair shader.
It looks like, and I would say Death Stranding is kind of like that too. The way that they do hair in Death Stranding, it's kind of like these layers of textures that they stack on top of each other.
Well, the Wookiees in particular are not.
They look awful.
Did not turn out too well.
Awful. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know.
I mean, it's obvious when you first see him that it looks terrible. The other thing that makes the game feel really old to me is that there are invisible walls everywhere. So there are lots of areas where you should be able to climb. It looks like you can climb, and there's an invisible wall there. There's also inconsistencies.
Or they just don't let you grab the ledge that it feels
That's
like
what
you
I'm
should be able
talking
to
about.
grab.
So there are inconsistencies. Like in that train part that we were showing earlier in the B-roll, there's one part where you get to this big wall. And I jumped all over that wall trying to figure out how to climb it. It turned out you had to go all the way to the right, and there was just one ledge that you could jump up and grab. But the same ledge was all the way around it, and you couldn't grab it anywhere else. Like, that's a huge mistake. Like, that's an inconsistency.
There's another thing like that later in the game because, like, periodically, when you get a new force power, usually you get it by doing, like, a flashback to his training when he was a boy.
Yep.
And late in the game, there's a flashback where you go into like a training thing, and the Jedi Master, your master says like, "Come up to where I am, come get me," and you have to do a bunch of platforming to get there. There's one point in that platforming section where there is no indication of what to do next or where to go, and it's incredible. And like I had to look it up online
because
I couldn't figure out what it was because basically it's a thing you've done 1,000 times before in a game. But it's always marked out in a different way than it is here, and there's no real way to know that's what they want you to do.
Yeah, there's not like a lot of hand-holding in this. I wish there were waypoints because so basically the way the game works is you get a mission, you go to the planet, you go way deep into the level, you finish it, and then you have to get out. And a lot of times, like whatever ability you get at the end of the dungeon will help you get out more quickly.
It usually opens a shortcuts
and stuff like that. And so that's the process that you repeat. You land, you go into the level, you complete what you have to, and then you have to get back out.
And then usually you go back to a previous planet that you can now access something with your new power.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very Metroid.
It is very Metroid, for sure.
A lot of backtracking. Not as much backtracking as Metroid Prime 2, but...
No.
But backtracking is involved.
But that is the general pattern that you follow throughout the game.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, would I like more planets? Sure.
Yeah.
But I also like the way, like, you realize, like, there's actually a whole lot more to this planet.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can see it because it also has, like, that crazy 3D map like Metroid.
Yeah, which shows you, like, this, you can't
Here's
open this
door.
But this door is available. You haven't explored this part yet. It's actually a pretty good map.
I just wish there was a waypoint in the game. Because there have been times where I'm trying to get out of the level after I've completed it, and I've gotten lost. Yeah. And you start looking through the map, and it's just like Metroid. It's like, you first see the map, you're like, this is going to give me everything I need. And then you realize, like, when you actually start trying to use the map, like, there's all these little tunnels that, like, end, and you don't know if you get to the end of that where it goes, or it could be, like, an elevator that takes you up or down. Like, there's not enough information in the map, in my opinion, and a waypoint would have been greatly appreciated.
Like, I figured, I was pretty much fine with it most of the time, but I was very aware of, like, I have to keep on this game. Because if I stop playing it for 3 days, everything. I'm going to forget where everything is, and I'm never going to find my way back to where I need to go.
Again, very much like Metroid.
Yes.
The 3D Metroids in particular, Metroid Prime. Some people love this stuff, though. And it is a very isolating game. Your droid is there.
The droid is adorable.
I love
BD1
the droid. Is great. BD1 is like one of the best new Star Wars characters in a really, really long time.
Well, he was for about 3 days, and then The Mandalorian came out.
Oh, right. Yeah. I haven't watched that yet, but I know what you're talking about.
But it's a similar energy.
It is.
Yeah.
They do the animation for him is incredible.
And it's a really good way to sell Cal, because I like Cal. Here's the thing. So I do think he looks weird. I think Cameron Monaghan is a really good actor. I like him in a bunch of stuff. I don't think they translated his face to the digital character model very well.
Yeah.
He looks a little odd. But the performance is very good, and the fact that I was worried that Cal was going to be sort of like Kyle Katarn, who I hate that character. I don't like any of those games really. But like, doesn't want to be a Jedi, doesn't want to be part of this whole thing. I was worried we were going to have a whole section on the scrap planet at the beginning where he doesn't want to be a Jedi and he doesn't want to go back to that. No, he's just like, oh, let's go. Like 10 minutes, after 10 minutes, you're on a new planet. Like there's no bullshit at the beginning of this game. And then, like, once he finds BD1, he is instantly kind to him and very attentive to him. And the fact that he is instantly kind to BD1 made me instantly like Cal.
Yeah.
It's very smart writing.
Their relationship is great.
Very well done. There's a lot of good character. Because the story in this game, it takes place 5 years after Episode 3. So, because of when it takes place between the prequel and the original trilogy, nothing can really happen. Like, you can't solve the galaxy's problems because Luke Skywalker does that in 15 years.
Yeah.
So, by definition, the quest is kind of to reestablish the Jedi Order by finding this holocron that has the names of Force-sensitive children on it.
Yeah.
But you know that can't happen because it didn't happen.
Right.
So, like,
you already know where it ends.
Like, you're kind of the revelation at the end is the reason they don't do that, basically.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like, the ending.
I think it's okay though.
It's fine. Yeah. I mean, that's just the nature of a prequel. It's also the nature of sort of what you're doing. All you want to do is run around, swing a lightsaber, and fight stormtroopers, and that gets you there.
Oh yeah.
But like. So you're kind of left leaning on the characters and their relationships, and most of that really works. Like his character's good. The woman that recruits him is good. The pilot alien guy is
amazing.
Great. The bad guy, the second sister, is very effective, well played.
Yep.
So it all works. Like it's good.
The plot isn't that prevalent.
No,
the plot
is a skeleton frame, really, to hang
because
everything
you spend
on.
so much time out.
Similar to Metroid.
It is. So you land, and literally it'll take you probably an hour plus to go complete the mission and then make your way back. Then typically you watch a cutscene that moves the plot forward. Then you go to the next spot, rinse and repeat.
Yeah. The one thing I will say that I thought was a little disappointing to me is. Outside of not wanting to waste because everyone in this game who's acting in the game, the characters look like them, like their facial scan, just like so many other games now. So I can understand not wanting to tell the lead actor that you're going to let people change their face, but otherwise there is no reason you shouldn't be able to customize Cal in this. You should be able to pick. Maybe not his hair.
You can customize the crap out of your lightsaber.
You can customize everything else. You'd be able to customize, I think, minor features, maybe the hair color, skin color. You should be able to choose if he's a boy or a girl. I don't see any. I mean, I know that would require like having someone else record the lines again, but there's nothing in the game that requires him to be male. So it's unfortunate to me that I think that they didn't give you more options there. That's really the only thing I would criticize in that regard. Because everything, I mean, you can change his clothes, his poncho, the color of the droid, the color of the ship, the color of the lightsaber, like 3 different separate pieces of the lightsaber. Also, I should note, almost all the lightsaber pieces are straight from the build your own lightsaber thing
it.
at Galaxy's
I knew
Edge.
they did. Like, I haven't done that, but when you showed me yours, I'm like, wait, I think these are all the same parts Matt got to choose from.
Yeah, you can pretty much literally build the lightsabers that you bought at Disneyland
cool.
out of that. Which is, I mean, they look cool, and you might as well not waste it. It gives you more options, so that's cool.
Skill tree is pretty limited. There's just
limited,
3
but
branches.
Most of it is useful, so that's okay.
And you do notice most of it whenever you enact it.
Yeah.
I put almost all my points initially into health and defense.
Same. But later on, like the enhancements to the various force powers are super useful.
That's what I invested in last, was force.
Yeah. What did I invest? I mean,
I went for like lightsaber attacks and defense first.
There were a couple things I saved for later because I didn't use one of the alternate styles you got until later. There's a lot of surprises in this. There's also like a very major upgrade you get early on, which is interesting because when people started talking about it online and comparing notes as to where they got it, it doesn't matter. Because early on I was going to say, like, I got to mention, like, go back to the first planet to get this important upgrade. But it turns out whatever planet you go to, you find that upgrade.
Oh, interesting.
It's very well designed.
Huh.
Because someone was saying, who I can't remember his name now. Who was the guy who did that crazy documentary about Rocket League? That really.
You mean No Clip?
Yeah, but the man who directed it.
Oh, the old guy from GameSpot?
The guy, yeah.
I can't remember his name.
You know what I'm talking about.
I feel terrible.
Dwyer.
Yeah, Danny O'Dwyer.
Danny O'Dwyer. He said, like, make sure you go, and you might not be ready, but go to Dathomir and find the thing. And everyone's like, no, I found it here. I found it here. And it's like
that's cool.
That's a pretty cool piece of design there that they did that. Also, Dathomir's scary as hell when you're like unupgraded, and you should not go there until you're ready. Which I think is cool that that early on they give you the option to go to Dathomir as one of the, when you first get the ability to fly the ship and go wherever you want. You can go to the next planet that's in for the main quest, or you can go to Dathomir and get your ass kicked.
Yeah, immediately
which I thought was cool.
That's kind of the only point where that happens.
It is, but it's like nice that they let you do that.
Right at the beginning, they let you choose, but if you go to the wrong one, you'll learn real quick to go to the right one.
Well, and also, if you know anything about Star Wars, you're like, Dathomir is not the second planet you want to go to.
Yeah, for sure.
In the Star Wars
it's
universe.
Dangerous. Yeah.
But it's also a very cool section.
Yep. So you finished this map, but you said you kind of beelined it. How long did it take you to finish?
I did a lot of wandering, actually.
Oh, you did?
I did. So it was probably like 22 hours. I would say 22, 23 hours.
Yeah.
I still didn't get everything. Like I 100%ed, I think, 2 of the 5 planets, and I need
There's
to go
not
back
a lot to collect, really. There's the lightsaber
one of them
parts.
does. Like I think Zepho, the main, like the first planet you go back to, like that has like 40 something chests or something. It's like there's a lot there. But some of the others are pretty minor. Like the last planet, with the last like mission takes place on a place you can't go back to afterwards, and B has no collectibles on it whatsoever. So that's kind of a different thing. But there's a reason to go back and kind of, with your new powers variously and say, I can do this now or I can do that now, and I know and sometimes it's cool because sometimes there's like a little extra room and there's a nice little chest there. It gives you okay. Sometimes you open, it's like, there's a whole like other level behind this thing. So
you can look on the map, like you can see the doors, and the map is good about saying, okay, here's a door that you don't have the power to open yet. It's red. Here's the door that's still closed, but you do have the power to open up already, and that's like a yellowish, like green. And so when you look at the map behind those doors, you can see like a shadow of what's behind there. You can't see exactly what's behind there, but you can tell if there's like a lot of territory behind it usually. So it's not a crazy surprise every time you open up one of those doors, but it's at least a little bit of a surprise every time you do it.
Oh, and I would also say the sliding stuff, not quite ready for prime time.
I'll just be honest. I'm surprised that there's so much of all this stuff in there. The puzzle solving, I can't believe there's as much as there is. The platforming, I can't believe there's as much as there is. And that, I can't believe there's as much of it.
I don't have a problem with that. I just wish the sliding stuff controlled better. Especially later on, there's a couple... They stop playing nice with you with those, and you can fall off.
Yeah.
Nice. It's nice that you don't die if you fall off a bottomless pit. You just you respawn pretty close to where you were with a little life taken off. But there's like later on in the game, there's stuff where like you just can't make that turn fast enough without already knowing where the track's going, and so it becomes like this trial and error thing. And I think that's annoying.
The point I was getting at though is I'm surprised there's all this other stuff and there's so little combat. So while I was playing it, I didn't really have a good grip on how much of each thing there was. But when you're cutting B-roll, and I had I recorded like the first 3 hours of this game, basically, the whole thing. And when you're cutting B-roll, you're cutting 3 hours down to 18 minutes or however long the B-roll ended up being for this episode. It takes a long time, but you get a really good lay of the land because you're looking at these big chunks of footage. And I would say the combat probably makes up like 10 to 15% of this game.
I'd say it's more like half and half.
Oh, it's
like,
not.
You get
maybe later on.
It is later. By later on, by like the full picture, like you start fighting much bigger groups and much more.
I mean, I've definitely played way over 12 hours of this game, and up to that point, like the first 3 hours, combat was 10 to 15%.
Yeah, it's pretty minor early on, in part because it's so hard they don't want to throw too much at you. But like once you're past the halfway point, it starts to ramp up. Dathomir is just endless combat.
Okay.
Then they start throwing they start doing the thing where once the later planets and later sections where you get deeper into the planets, you start picking up stuff, and then when you come out, like there's half the Empire's Legion is there waiting for you.
All right, so it picks up later on then.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was enough. But early on, I would say it's definitely tilted more in favor of like environmental traversal and puzzle solving.
Oh, drastically, for sure. Like I was really shocked how many puzzles there were in the game.
But it's also kind of an element of like you don't really want to be fighting too much until you've got more of his abilities.
Yeah,
like the combat system isn't really fully complete until you've gotten like 3 of the major force abilities.
Yeah. And I think I have all those now, though.
Do you have pull? Mm-hmm. Yeah, then you have all the major combat-related ones.
Yeah, so they just haven't started piling on the combat yet for me.
Yeah, you'll get there. You're starting to get there. Once I know,
but it does ease you into it. That's what I was getting at.
I know where you are, and you're about to start like there's not a lot of combat in the tree climbing thing, but it's one of the cooler sequences just because you get to do some cool shit.
Okay. So should people buy this, Matt, for $60? $60 US?
If you like Star Wars, yeah.
Oh, if you like Star Wars, it is a no-brainer. Like, don't even question it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like Dark Souls, like it's probably one of the more competent Souls-alikes, even though it doesn't quite nail the combat hitbox. The reliability of combat is not on, but no one has done that.
Who will like this more? Dark Souls fans, God of War fans, or Metroid fans?
Honestly, I'm going to say Metroid fans.
I would too. Yeah,
like that's the itch it scratched the most.
I would agree with that. Yep. I'd agree with that. As far as the aesthetic of it and like
even early on, I'm like, oh, this is a Metroid game.
Yeah.
It's like Metroid.
As soon as you look at the map the first time and you see the color-coded doors, you're like, oh.
Yeah, and also the way, I mean, it's also Dark Souls, but just the way the maps fold back in on themselves, and like all of a sudden,
I'd argue Metroid did that first.
It did, but like Dark Souls is sort of the one that's like people associate it with in 3D more. But like there's a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, open this door. It's like, oh, I'm here. I didn't realize I'd gone all the way around.
That happens all the time. Yeah, you'll drop a ladder and you'll climb down it. You're like, oh,
it's actually better at that.
Back at the beginning.
It's actually better at that than Dark Souls 2 is.
Yeah, the Metroid Prime was really the first 3D game to do that.
Yeah,
as far as like create these labyrinthine levels that all fold in on each other, and then you pop out. You're like, how the heck did I get back here? Like I have no idea. So there is that kind of awesome feeling of discovery with the level design in this.
The only other criticism I would have is that it's not that hard. Like dying is not a huge disaster. The disaster of dying is that the load times can be crazy. Like sometimes it's like 5 to 10 seconds. Sometimes it's like 30 to 40.
There's some weird quirks with saving too that it took me a while to figure out. Like if you save, enemies respawn. But if you go to the meditation point where you save, and instead of saving, you just use your skill point, that also saves your game without respawning the enemies.
It saves the game if you sit at the meditation thing at all.
I don't think it does.
It does.
Oh, it does?
It does. So if you meditate at all at a checkpoint, you've checkpointed and saved.
You have? I thought you had to save.
You don't. No, if you resting is separate from saving.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Just sitting down and
kneeling down saves.
Oh, that changes everything. That's great to know. But again, this is
when you
something else the game doesn't explain.
Yeah, I think I just figured that out by trial and error. But
that's how I figured out that
resting replenishes your life and your force and your stims because the droid throws.
Yeah, we haven't actually talked about
the droid throws stims. That's the Estus flask. Is you basically throw you ask for stim and da.
And you get more of those as the game goes on.
Yeah, you can unlock more, just like the Estus flask. And but that when you do that, when you rest for that, that's when it respawns all the enemies.
Yeah, resting, they respawn.
And if you just...
See, I thought you had to... No. When you rest, you had to rest to save.
No, as soon as you meditate, the little save thing pops up.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
So you do not have to respawn all the enemies if you just want to save the game.
Yeah, and if you just want to use skill points, it won't respawn all the enemies either.
The only way you respawn enemies is by resting.
But the only place you can use your skill points is at the meditation points. So you can't, like, in the middle of the game, just bring up the menu and, like, assign a skill point. You have to wait. But they're, like, every, like, 100 yards, it seems like. They're very generous.
That's the Dark Souls influence there. It's just like, you gotta upgrade at the bonfire, but the whole world's practically a bonfire. So, the real problem is that you sometimes certain areas, certain places, certain checkpoints, 30, 40 seconds of load time. And I know people playing this on every platform, and PS4 and PC. People I know playing it all say the same thing. Like the load times after you die are crazy.
Yeah, this is not an open world game. All the sections of the world kind of load in.
Yeah.
So,
but like sometimes it takes forever to get, and like if you're stuck on one particular, like that guy you saw me beat there, like the checkpoint for that is pretty far away, and like
that boss, you mean
that boss, like the glitch thing we showed. Whenever I die to him, like I just sit there for 40 seconds waiting for that thing to reload. It was
there are also
and sometimes he'd kill me in like 3 shots. It was like run in, boom, 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 dead, and then I gotta wait 40 seconds.
And there are also some sections in the game where you have to go a good ways, and then if you die, you do go back a good distance. And then sometimes I got lost. Like, seriously, like I couldn't find my way back to the room where I was in.
It's twisty.
Yeah. So,
but
those are small issues.
I mean, look, overall, I really like it.
Me too.
I had a lot of fun with it.
I'm still having a lot of fun with it.
It's great to see Star Wars back in, and also it's like great to see EA make a single-player game with no weird forced multiplayer or microtransactions or
and it's good.
Any season pass shit. It's like, I mean, part of that I'm sure is because Respawn has the clout to say like, no, we don't want to make that game. We're going to make this. And so they did, and great. I wish it was I wish it had 6 months more of polish or in the oven. Like maybe we'll get some patches in on this thing or something. But like, even what's there is really good anyway.
I think when you take stock of 2019, you may change your mind.
Maybe
that this is up there.
It's no Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
But in terms of action stuff, it's one of the best things that's come out.
I absolutely think it's a contender for Game of the Year. It's going to be a hard decision this year. I can pretty much guarantee we're going to have different picks this year. And
Probably.
I can almost guarantee that people are not going to guess what our picks are going to be. And that's kind of exciting for once.
Well, it's not Death Stranding.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I think they did guess, Matt, is that neither one of us are going to pick.
You totally missed that. Like, that cutscene saved your ass right there.
I did miss it, yeah. I completely missed it. Yeah, I flew like 10 feet away, and it still, like, caught me or whatever.
So I wish it was I wish it had the polish that, like, a Spider-Man has.
It's not quite there.
Because it could. Like,
it's so close.
It is.
It's really, really close.
But again,
and I can't wait to play the next one.
We haven't had an action-based non-Battlefront Star Wars game since 2010?
Yeah.
And we haven't had a good one since ever maybe. Dark Forces 1.
Look, I recommend anyone who likes action games buy this. Like, you don't have. I don't think you have to be a Star Wars fan to recommend this for a purchase. I just think
as long as like lightsabers don't inexplicably make you angry. There's no reason.
As long as you don't hate Star Wars, I definitely recommend this as a full purchase. I think it's worth the money.
Yeah.
And you're not, like you said, you're not going to get inundated with like cheap microtransactions where they're trying to.
No, it's just a one and done. Play the game, finish the game, sell the game back, play it again on a higher difficulty, whatever. It's very OG.
Yep. So there you go. That's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, available for PS4, Xbox One, PC. Definitely never coming to Switch.
Probably not. No.
Yeah, I don't see them getting that to work. Switch 2, maybe.
Yeah, maybe Switch 2, but by then the second one will be out.
Right, yeah. And that's how it'll work. The first one will come out on Switch 2, and then the new one will come out everywhere else.
Yep. Switch 2,
a
day late and $1, not $1 short because it's still going to be $60, but like.
Such is the life of the Nintendo fan.
The Nintendo
who has to
devotee.
deal with the third-party situation.
But they can't hear you because they're filling out that Pokedex.
That's true.
They got their own thing.
No, that's the thing with Pokemon is they can absolutely watch or listen to this show while they play the game. I watched football all day and played Pokemon all day and got 2 more gym badges like while watching football. So.
I definitely switched to podcasts after a while on Pokemon. Also, like. I don't like the music very much in this Pokemon. I do like the music in Pokemon, but I feel like something about the new Pokemon music just
it's just not good. I'll just be perfectly honest with you. It's not well composed.
Like not even like the remixes,
not catchy.
Not even like the covers of like the songs classics. I like. I don't really like what they've done with them.
I don't like the presentation in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I haven't from the beginning.
You haven't liked the presentation of Pokemon for a while, though.
From the first time I saw it, I didn't like it. And
not just this one, though. Like you said the same about Sun and Moon.
This one especially, though. As soon as I saw that first trailer, I was like, ew. And I still feel that way after I've played
I still think it looks fine. I'm not going to say it looks good, but I'm going to say it looks fine.
It's passable.
I mean,
all right.
There've been better looking things on the Switch itself.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, they just put out one a week earlier that looks way better.
Yeah. Or even like look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2. As much as I hate that game,
looks better.
It could have looked like that.
Yep. Okay, it's time for our trailer of the week here on GameFace. You guys may have noticed that another little game launched today that we did not talk about on the episode, and that game is Shenmue 3. Mm-hmm. Since we're not talking about it on the episode, it is our trailer of the week. It's the launch trailer. Matt has spent a little bit of time with the game, so if you guys are really curious, he can answer a question about it on the other side.
I played like 2 hours last night because my physical copy from the Kickstarter came in yesterday.
Yeah.
Whereas it didn't go live otherwise until 8 a.m.
Yeah, you couldn't download it till this morning, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
But Matt has played a little bit of the game, so if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask during the Q&A after the trailer of the week. Also, I want to remind you that we're about to give away a free 3-month subscription to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate.
In the chat, the guy who I think was giving it away said it was actually 12 months.
Oh, it's 12 months? Damn!
He had to leave, but I think I saw something where he said, remind Shane that it's 12 months.
Oh, damn. Well, there you go. 12 months of Xbox Game Pass, not just Game Pass Ultimate. We are going to be giving away here in a couple minutes. It's going to be a quiz. And this one is not going to be as easy as the last couple that we've done because this is a pretty big prize. This is a year of Game Pass. So
that's some real stuff.
That's legit. So we're going to give that away when we get back from the trailer of the week. Get any questions you may have about Shenmue for Matt ready. Keep in mind that Matt has only played a couple hours of it, so he's not that far into the game. So keep your questions along those lines. And I think that's it. Here it is, the launch trailer for Shenmue 3. Let's roll it.
Phoenix Mirror. How did you get this?
My father left it for me. It's what brought me to this village.
Tell me about where you were born.
You want to know about Yokosuka?
Yes. I want to see what Japan is like. Leo, it's morning.
You got the wrong guy.
Lies! Please let me know.
I'd rather not get you involved.
Still, you did good, man.
I don't want to hear it.
Honestly, I don't think your kung fu is strong enough.
The Shingo tree's blossoms are beautiful.
Indeed. They're in full bloom, though. So the petals will start dropping soon.
That's a shame. I just want to know why these mirrors were worth killing my father over.
But people are looking for it anyway, continuing the cycle of pain.
Here we go.
My father.
That's Bailu Village. Leo, I want to hear more about you.
It's so hard to not get nostalgic watching that trailer.
Yeah.
That was the best trailer for the game so far.
Oh, definitely.
It taps into the people who really love the first two games.
Yeah, and it makes it look like something might actually happen.
Yeah, they haven't they haven't done enough. I don't think they've catered enough to fans with the marketing of this game.
No, well, they catered plenty in the design. Let me tell you that much. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Before we get to questions, I want to thank some people for Twitch Prime. Cody S. Carter, thank you. Johnny Hurricane, thank you. You the man. Texture Glitch, thank you for subscribing via Twitch Prime. And I'm sure some were done during the middle of the show that I missed. And thank you for that as well if we missed you guys. All right, let's see. Let's get to some questions. Mark Simpson, UK. Do any of the games shown at OX19 demand investment in the new-gen Scarlet, in your opinions? How many games would it need to justify such a large investment? I think that's something we discussed was, are these games really like Scarlet games? And it's weird for them to announce them a year before Scarlet comes out.
Well, I definitely don't think they are. They're both, really. Like, I'm sure all those will run on current Xbox One.
On both, yeah.
And they'll also look better on Scarlet.
Right.
They'll be fine. I don't think we've seen, other than Halo Infinite, I don't think we've seen the quote-unquote reasons we're supposed to buy that system yet.
No, I don't think we have. And I don't think these games are in either.
They don't hurt. They're not a reason to drop $500.
Yeah. I guess to put it in a sentence, there were no killer apps announced at XO19. No. Yeah. Commander Fet03, what's the best interview you've ever done? That's pretty good.
I mean, the most memorable one was probably with Nomura right after they announced Kingdom Hearts 2, because we had the only interview with him because that was back when Square was it was Tokyo Game Show. It was back when Square was afraid to let websites run their footage because they thought it was in too low res. So because we were television,
we had the exclusive on everything.
We had that 480i broadcast quality. We got to have the trailer be the exclusive ones with the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 2 and to talk to Nomura. And I went with Morgan to Square's headquarters in Tokyo. And the deal was we interview a bunch of guys about these other games they're doing, and then we get Nomura last. And we did the guy who did Drakengard and Final Fantasy XI, and I think one other thing that I can't remember what it was, whatever was hot at the time that they were trying to push. And then Nomura wasn't there, and we waited. And we waited for like 2-3 hours.
Oh my god!
Which is very unusual in Japanese business. Like the idea of keeping anyone waiting.
Yeah.
Like the Square people kept coming in and apologizing and giving us presents. Like they kept giving us.
Here's another copy of Final Fantasy VII.
We ended up with 2 copies of the Japanese version of Drakengard. Tons of weird little tchotchkes, just like little things. And finally, he shows up, and he's dressed he's dressed like Sora. He's dressed with the shorter pants and the wallet chain and the big shoes and his little vest jacket thing, and on the back is a diving eagle, and it says "Death Before Dishonor" on it. And we did like a 7.
And he wore that to work.
Yeah. We did like a 10-minute interview, and he didn't give us any more real new information. It was just to have him on and say we had him on, and where we asked what because no one knew what Roxas and his friends were. They all we saw was that picture of him. We're like, who are they? And his answer was, they are friends. And I'm just like, okay, dude, whatever. So it was worth it in terms of the segment looked really good, but we were there for like 5 hours
to do like a 10-minute interview.
A 10-minute interview, and I don't have any reason to believe this. He didn't say anything. Nobody would confirm it. Because it was right after this event they did where they unveiled it. We came straight from that event to their headquarters and did it. I think he went home and changed. I think that's
so
what
it was
took
like
so
an
long.
outfit for the interview
because he was going to be on TV.
Yeah.
I think he went home and changed
You're right.
and came back.
Yeah, that's what happened
In his awesome Death Before Dishonor outfit. That wasn't a great interview, but it was the most memorable. Oh, and then that was also when we were doing dubs. Like we would have the Japanese translated, and we'd dub them over, usually with one of the editors. And the editor that did this one with me was Dave Rubin. And when he read Nomura's Nomura's answers in English, when Nomura said they are friends, Nomura also laughed. And
did he laugh?
Dave laughed. He goes, "They are friends." Ha 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 ha. And we put it
great.
in.
Oh, you did?
We left it in. And
that's awesome.
And that was one of my favorites. Is dubbing the laugh.
Yeah.
It was one of the dumbest, most needless things we ever did. But everyone remembers that.
Yeah.
Everyone. When we even came back to the studio, and Adam and Morgan were like, I think the dubbing guy got a little overeager with the laugh on that one. I don't know what that was about.
No, it's perfect.
We got real punchy in the edit bays at that company sometimes.
Yep, we sure did.
So that was
well, when you sit in there for 8 hours straight, that'll happen. Man, best interview. Oh my God, I've done so many. I think my most memorable interview. There's two. For me, the most memorable one is probably the one where I was like on the edge the most. And that was when I called out PlayStation to Phil Harrison about faking all the PS3 stuff. That was weird. That was hard.
I mean, I remember doing that. That was a memorable one for us too, but I didn't do that interview. Adam did. But I was in the room and I was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was. I thought he was gonna like attack me.
Yeah, I was like, I remember being ready, like, oh, if he comes at Adam, we're gonna have to do because he's very tall.
That was a memorable one. The other one that I did, I interviewed Peter Molyneux when they were showing off Milo, and how it worked was I had gotten there early, and like when I got there, they weren't set up yet, and it was basically like the Wizard of Oz. They had a person in a back room, even with a freaking curtain. Operating Milo
while on the nose,
right? While he was out there acting like Milo, and so I sat down, I saw that stuff, I kind of like put it in the back of my mind, I filed it away, went through the typical event where you sit and watch their demo, and then you have drinks and blah blah blah, and then you do the interviews afterwards. And when I was doing the interview with them, I told him that I saw that they were faking Milo. And he didn't really deny it. Like, he was like, oh, kind of like, you saw that, eh? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, when are you guys going to think you're going to be able to get it to where it works the way it's supposed? I sugar-coated it.
Right.
So, and then he answered, oh, it's a work in progress, blah, blah, blah. And then I went on Invisible Walls the next day and told everybody what I
remember that.
What I saw. And then it exploded.
Yeah.
And, like, even today, you can Google, like
I remember the man behind the curtain.
Like you can Google it still today, Milo, and you'll come across like me basically breaking the story that was fake, and we never saw it again. It was never shown again.
Adam and I went because we were doing interviews for Fable 3 at Lionhead. We were scheduled for a long time. We'd interviewed Molyneux like a month beforehand because we knew he might not be available then. So we just did it in LA. And we got there, and we get there the day to interview, and Microsoft had canned Milo the day before, and it was like
there was nothing.
Yeah, well, because also so we didn't see Molyneux because he was busy yelling at people on the phone and was depressed basically.
Yeah,
but the weirdest thing was that you could overhear conversations where like people that weren't on the Milo team were like gloating about it. Like they were like, "Oh, they got their stupid thing canceled. Oh, look, it was shocking." Like there were people like, "Oh, look what happened." Like
they were probably pissed off that they had dedicated any resources to that,
especially because it was
work.
Fake. Yeah, like, it wasn't real. Molyneux was one of my other favorite interviews, not because of anything that happened in the interview, but because when I came in, I said I just finished Fable 1. It was for Fable 2, and we came in for Fable 1. I just finished it again, and I'm like, da-da-da-da-da, and he's like, well, if you loved being an archer, you are going to love what we've done in Fable 2 with this button right here. And like you press this button, and it will do your gun. It brings out anything you need for ranged attacks, and it will just create a combo. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really good. And so we do the interview. We come out, and Adam's like, I saw you talking to Peter. Like, what was he telling you? And I'm like, he told me the Y button shoots. Like, that's all he did. That's all he did was 5 minutes of it, and I was fucking enthralled by it. Like, I was completely...
He's a great speaker.
It was amazing. Yeah. It's like the man can make make anything sound fascinating.
Yeah.
He is a tremendous storyteller. It's amazing to be in a room with him.
Yep, and I'm proud of a lot of the interviews I do with Japanese developers because, as Matt brought up earlier, they're always tough to do because you say the question, then the translator gives him the question, then he gives the answer, then the translator does her best to give it back to you. They're very awkward and very hard. So anytime one of those goes well, I'm like, okay, that feels good.
Yeah, that's a rare, because sometimes you're just like, God, I don't know what the hell we got.
Well, then sometimes you walk out, you're like, that was a disaster, and I can't think of anything else I could have done to have fixed it.
Right. Because sometimes like they do interviews, especially for like TGS stuff, and like they're not willing to talk about anything, but they just want to do an interview to regurgitate their press release, basically. It's very annoying.
We got to move on to more questions because we stayed on that one for a long time. That was a great freaking question.
Good question.
Great job, Commander Fett. Sneaky.
Let the old men talk about the war stories. We'll go on for an hour.
We'll do it all day. Sneaky Shalid Snake. I think I finally said it right that time.
There.
What's your opinion on biased review sites? Terminator got...
I'm for them.
Terminator got slated for its graphics and gameplay, but Bethesda and Fallout get a pass. 15 lads in a shack versus $1 billion company. No, well, here's the first thing I would say is it doesn't matter how many people made a game. You don't take that into account when you review a game. So maybe your scale's a little off, because if you're saying you should give a game a higher score because it took less people to make it, nobody's reviewing on that scale.
What he's saying is that Terminator doesn't look any worse than, say, Fallout 4. So how come Fallout gets a pass and Terminator doesn't?
Well, there's a lot more to a game than graphics, also.
True, but just talking about like visuals, like I think Fallout 4 is a really ugly game, and no one really called it out for that. I get what he's saying there.
I don't know. I think people called it out for it. Nobody said that Fallout was a gorgeous game. That's for sure.
No, but like they didn't really call it out. It's like, oh, it looks fine. I think Fallout 4 looks really bad.
It's pretty ugly. Yeah.
I mean, Terminator is also very ugly. I haven't played it, but I've seen the videos of it. Like.
But he is saying, like, 15 lads in a shack versus $1 billion. He's saying, like, you should...
Yeah, I don't think that matters. Like,
it doesn't matter. No. It shouldn't matter at all. That does not matter at all.
So I went to, in 1995, I went to the midnight launch of Windows 95 with my friend who wanted to go to CompUSA, because I wasn't a Windows guy, but he was, and so we went to this midnight launch for this thing.
For Windows.
And I remember for Windows 95, the midnight launch of an OS. The 90s were a time, folks.
Yeah.
And so we're in line for him to buy his copy, and they've got like kiosks set up for Windows 95 only software, and people are trying to hawk it to you as you're in line to buy this thing. And this guy is trying to demo this game called Battle Beasts, which is a fighting game with like hand-animated battle beast, cyborg beast guys. And he has me play, because it's literally set up so like you can just sort of lean out of the queue and like play the thing. And it's just terrible. It's keyboard controls. It barely functions. It's like, you know, like a slightly more advanced Tongue of the Fat Man kind of thing. And I like back off, and he's like, "Oh, what do you think?" And I'm just like, I mean, it's fine, but I think I prefer Virtua Fighter at this point. You know, I'm a fighting game person. It's like I play real fighting games all the time. This is not a, that's what I'm thinking. I didn't say that, but I was just like, this is not on par with the stuff I play in the arcade or at home. And he's like, "Do you program? Do you do stuff like?" I'm like, "No, not really." And he's like, "Well, then I don't think you really understand like how much work it takes."
It doesn't matter.
And all the guys around me just go, "Oh, shut!" Like I didn't say anything. The people around me were like, "Oh, who cares?" Like,
what doesn't matter?
It's like if the game's not good, the game's not good. Like he got shouted down by like everybody in earshot.
Yeah,
like, but
that's the way it is.
But like, yeah, it doesn't matter if like two guys did it in a basement or 1 million people did it. What matters is the end result. And then sometimes that's unfair and it sucks, but that's how it goes.
Yep. Texture Glitch, thank you for subscribing via Twitch Prime. Score Fear, honestly not a fan of the actor starring in Jedi Fallen Order. I think Matt and I agree with you on that. How much will that affect my enjoyment of the game? What if you didn't like Norman Reedus? Would that affect your enjoyment of Death Stranding? The last question, I think it might.
Yeah, because I think Norman Reedus is pretty much just Norman Reedus in that game.
He's also just...
He's there all the time.
He's in every frame, the full frame. Like this, most of the time you see Cal from behind.
Yeah.
But I would agree, I don't really like his look. I don't know why.
Now, something about... I don't mind... I mean, I'm not saying the actor's ugly or anything. I just don't think they translated him to a digital character model very well. There's something weird about the lower part of the face of the Cal model.
Yeah.
Which is not like that on the real human being. So I don't know what's going on there. The other thing about Cal is because I grew up in Northern California, when I hear the name Cal, I think of Cal Worthington and his dog Spot. And if you probably don't know what that is because you didn't grow up here, go look up on YouTube Cal Worthington and his dog Spot and understand why the entire time I was playing that game in my head there was a loop of go see Cal, go see Cal, go see Cal.
The other thing too is that there aren't the cutscenes aren't prevalent in Jedi.
No, you're not listening to him all the time. You're not watching
Death
him all the time.
Stranding is basically one gigantic cutscene.
Yeah, it's almost a one-man show.
It is.
At a certain
it
point.
is. It's almost like a vaudeville, like one man.
Straight down, like every time you rest, you have to stare at Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
So and he starts like pointing at you, and it's very
so Norman Reedus, if you don't like him, that's a problem for Death Stranding.
There's much more cult of personality around Norman Reedus in Death Stranding.
Fallen Order, not so much.
Not really.
Yeah. We'll answer, what time is it? We'll answer like one more. We always answer ETH Demons, so let's see if we can find somebody else. Kelvis, are there sailors in Shenmue 3?
Not so far, but I have spent a lot of time asking people where to find thugs. Really, I will warn you, like, I know because it's like a week before we talk about this, like, if you don't already love Shenmue, like, and all its weird...
Nobody asked about it. I'm surprised.
Shit, like, don't touch this. Shenmue 3 is Shenmue 3 in, like, I said before, like, imagine it's like a remaster of a Shenmue game that came out in 2004. I was way more right than I thought I was.
Sadly.
Like, down to the weird, awkward pauses in the dialogue that don't need to be there because it's 2019. It's rough.
Early impressions from Matt are not good.
I mean, it's exactly what they said it was going to be. It's Shenmue 3 in every way, shape, and form, but it's 2019, and that doesn't really cut it anymore.
Last one. Lynn Jeff 99. Were you disappointed in the lack of limbs flying off on lightsabers landing in Jedi Fallen Order?
No.
No, didn't miss it.
First off, you can cut a lot of stuff apart.
Yeah.
Like, and later in the game, you'll see that there are certain enemies where you do cut limbs off. Like humanoid enemies, you cut limbs off. Bigger monsters, you cut in half. You cut limbs off. You cut droids apart. You just don't cut the stormtroopers apart, pretty much, because that would get you an M rating, and
it's not worth
Star Wars will never have an M-rated game.
I didn't miss it at all. Being able to cut the enemies, the monsters in half, that's plenty good enough for me.
That's fine. And if you really want that, I get the PC version, and it'll get modded in soon enough. It's not an issue.
Yep. Okay, it's time for a giveaway. We are about to give away 12 months worth of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. A full year of games that you'll never be able to play all of. And we're going to give this away with a quiz. The first person to get the answer into chat is going to get the reward. Now, if you don't have an Xbox, please don't compete. Like, let the people win it who can actually make use of it.
Does it work on PC?
It might.
I don't know.
It should. It should actually.
Be universal.
Yeah, so if you have a gaming PC or an Xbox, jump in. But if you just own a PlayStation or a Switch...
But if you only have a Switch, get out.
Yeah, let somebody win this that can make use of it.
Unless it also ends up accounting for Switch.
Yeah, you guys are all good people, but sometimes people stray into our stream who aren't. So just putting it out there before we put out the quiz question. And the quiz question is, get your fingers on the keyboard and get ready to type. First one to put it in the chat wins. Why is the Xbox called the Xbox? Go. Let's see. Cody S. Carter got it.
Yep.
DirectX. That's exactly right.
Direct Xbox.
A bunch of people got it right, but yeah.
But
Cody S. Carter got it right first. Cody, you just won 12 months of Xbox Game Pass. That's pretty freaking awesome. I think that's the best thing. Scorefear said X86. I think it's the best thing we've ever given away on GameFace as far as a freebie. So you got it, Cody. All you have to do is DM us on Twitch. Just make sure you send us a DM, and then when I get home and I'm going through getting this episode going for the archive, I'll send you the code. Also, I should add that this code was given to us by Brad Bernian from Sifted. He is the one who donated the code for this. He already had, 36 months stacked or something, and he couldn't use it. So he gave us the code. If you see him on the stream or if you see him on the site, make sure you thank him. Again, Brad Bernian. One more thing before we go. So we've been talking about how Loot Crate went out of business. And that we're going to have to change the Patreon tier because they don't exist anymore. In the midst of that, literally in the last 10 days, they have sent me 4 Loot Crates. I'm not even exaggerating. I don't know if they're actually not going out of business.
Someone bought them.
Or if they're offloading all the stuff that they didn't send out. But anyway, I now have a stack of loot boxes to give you guys. I'm not exaggerating. That's this high. Literally a stack like this high at home right now to give away. And so what I've decided that we're going to do is I want to give you guys enough time to win these as possible. So if we did it this month, people who had only pledged back on November 1st would only be eligible. But I want to make sure as many of you guys are going to be as eligible for this as possible. So we are going to hold all of the loot boxes until December. Literally, I think there's 10. So if you guys are interested and you want to win a loot box, bump up your pledge if you're not there already. Your chances of winning one are going to be astronomical compared to how it usually is. So in December, we're going to give away 10 loot boxes, and it's perfect. It'll be like a Christmas gift that we can send the winners, and we're going to send out 10 of them. So get ready for December. If you want to win, if you've never been at that tier, it's $20 a month or more. If you've never been at that tier, December is the perfect month to do it because you're going to have a great chance at winning a Loot Crate gaming box. So, with that, what an episode of GameFace 191. We're creeping up on 200 here. The idea is that for 200, that will be kind of when we relaunch the show. And so we're hoping everything lines up. GameFace 200, Brent's work on the site, and the relaunch of GameFace. We're hoping all converge on one day.
Probably looking like beginning of February there.
Like first week of February, probably. I'm hoping Brent can get a lot of this stuff done before then on the site because I really want to roll that stuff out, but it's looking like it's going to take till around then. So we're going to have
probably the same week we're shooting my short film.
It might be.
February is going to be a big month.
It is. I mean, there's a ton of games too. So anyway, those are all the updates. Hope you guys are enjoying Q4. So many great games to play right now. I'm not playing Death Stranding. Any other month, I would have kept playing Death Stranding. There's just too much to play.
I mean, I wasn't planning on playing any more Death Stranding, but I got to say, after 2 hours of Shenmue 3, I might be going back and forth a little bit just for a break.
I hate to say it, but I told you. I told everybody. All the people freaking out, I'm like, be careful what you ask for.
I mean, I didn't really disagree. I'm like, yeah, they're going to make Shenmue 3. Yeah. That's what Shenmue 3 is.
But you remember, like, all the crazy, like, viral videos of people, like, losing their minds, like...
it is crazy. Like, even loading it up was like, I can't believe this exists. And I've continued to say that for 2 hours of playing it in an increasingly negative way. But, I mean, it's like nothing else.
Yep. It is.
Here's a good example of why that's not necessarily
not for better necessarily. All right. So anyway, that's GameFace 191 here on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. Those people listening on iTunes, not iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, hook a brother up. Head to our Patreon, patreon.com/sifted. Kick us $1 a month. Kick us $1,000 a month. Whatever you think it's worth. If you're getting our shows for free, we'd really appreciate it. Twitch Prime, reminder to everybody to do that. A lot of people aren't on the stream who watch the show archived on YouTube or on Sifted or on Patreon. Just a friendly reminder, you can do that once a month and you have to redo it every month. But otherwise, I am loving it. This is like I'm in the heyday right now. I'm not sleeping much, but it's okay because I'm playing great video games.
It's okay because nothing good comes out this week.
That's true. Maybe I'll catch up this week. But anyway, thanks for everybody on the stream for watching. Thanks for everybody who subscribed via Twitch Prime. You guys are all awesome.
Oh, Nexus 6 Baddie just gifting subs left and right.
Oh, wow. Nexus 6 Baddie is gifting 10 Tier 1 subs to the community. Wow. Dude, that's awesome. Holy crap, man. Thanks, Nexus 6 Baddie. Way to close out the show. I also want to thank Justin Horman before we leave, again, for the presents last week. Amazing that he got me the Series 2 Elite Controller. He got Matt an awesome book. You guys are awesome. Love the community so much. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.